Chapter 484. Chu Yang felt the difference between the O clan and the Xie clan when he entered the O clan this time. The entire O clan's manor was dark in color. One could feel a gloomy aura from afar. Gray walls, gray roof tiles, gray buildings were everywhere. High quality update fastest ***, even the surrounding trees seemed to have turned gray. Sure enough, it's the Thousand Poison clan. Chu Yang nodded silently. The O clan was famous for their poison techniques. And poison was an extremely difficult thing to control. Its formidable power was terrifying. But it could injure oneself if it wasn't used properly. Gray was the color of most poisons. It was also the color of death. Half of the people would feel gloomy when they enter this place. But the people who refined and used poisons would feel safe and at ease here. Chu Yang suddenly stopped halfway and said, Du Xing, you don't need to accompany me. You should accompany Wu Shang and GMO to look for the Dong clan and the Ji clan. You should take the things they need. Or you should greet them. It would be disadvantageous to delay this matter for too long. Gu Du Xing's complexion was cold and gloomy. He remained motionless as he said, Yes. This matter shouldn't be delayed. I will take them there. Then he turned his head towards O Du Xiao. Brother O, I'll have to trouble you to receive Big Brother Chu. We still have some matters to attend to. We will come to visit Brother O another day. O Du Xiao was stunned. He said, What matters do you have to attend to now? My clan has already prepared a banquet. This. Gu Du Xing exposed a deep smile on his face and said, Brother O, we have plenty of time in the future. So you don't need to be anxious. Besides, I'm only going to your clan to drink and have fun. But I'm accompanying Wu Shang and GMO to attend to an urgent matter. Brother O, please forgive me. He cupped his fists and bowed. Then he turned around and left with a whistling sound. The 14 people left with a whooshing sound. GMO impatiently asked after they had walked for some time, What important matter do I have? What does Big Brother want us to do? Big Brother doesn't want us to do anything. Dong Wu Shang's complexion was as iron as he said, He just doesn't want us to be caught in the enemy's net. So, Big Brother is in danger? GMO's complexion suddenly changed. He stopped his footsteps. Big Brother would have been in danger if we had gone in together. But we are outside now. So Big Brother is safe, Gu Du Xing coldly said, The dead tell no tales. So the O clan will certainly dare to make a move if we all die together. However, we're not together. We clearly know that Big Brother has entered the O clan. And the O clan will inevitably face the wrath of our 4 great clans if he doesn't come out. They don't dare to hurt boss. Dong Wushang nodded. They don't have the guts. Mo Qingwu followed him silently for a while. Then she suddenly raised her head and said, But elder brother Chu Yang, how do you know that there will be danger this time? Gu Du Xing and Dong Wushang looked at each other. This little girl's question had hit the nail on the head. That's because O Du Xiao was too enthusiastic today. Gu Du Xing indifferently said, So enthusiastic that we felt that it was somewhat fake. Dong Wushang coldly smiled and said, That's because we don't have such a deep friendship with O Du Xiao. Why did O Du Xiao come alone? Why did he say that he would arrange a banquet? Moreover, he said that he would satisfy all of Big Brother's needs. This is too much. At the end of the day, this is just a transaction, nothing more. Mo Qingwu nodded as if she understood something. She then said, So, excessive enthusiasm is also a flaw. Gu Du Xing nodded. The so-called feelings are accumulated over a long period of time. Only then can they gain mutual recognition. And they can further deepen their relationship with each other on the basis of mutual recognition. They have reached a certain level. And they have transcended the level of fair-weather friends. They have become true friends. But this level is also the most dangerous level for a friend. What? Mo Qingwu wasn't the only one who was asking this question. Even GMO and Luo Kudi were somewhat puzzled. Because they have reached such a level. And they consider each other as friends who are worth relying on and trusting. But friends can't be said to be friends. They want to do something together at such a time. And it will inevitably involve benefits if they want to do something together. Of course, it's benefits for the average person. But it's life and death for the people of Jianghu. Therefore, true friends will encounter trials. They will encounter some things as a touchstone. It may be an arrangement of the underworld. Or it may be a person's greedy heart that causes mischief. But many friends often turn against each other and become enemies over these matters. And they part ways. In fact, they may even fight to the death. Gu Du Xing sighed and said, And Big Brother has done very well in this matter. Therefore we brothers have come to be. Dong Wuxiang sighed deeply. He suddenly recalled that Chu Yang's hands had been pierced by a dagger, and he couldn't help but feel hot in his heart. So he heavily said, "Yes. Let's go a bit further away. That way the O clan will have some misgivings. This will make it more convenient for Big Brother to make a smooth transaction inside." Gu Duxing said, "Everyone, let's speed up." Everyone complied, and they flew all the way. "How come only one person has come?" A person on the O clan's gatehouse muttered doubtfully. "Could it be that things have changed?" Another person was also somewhat puzzled. "It can't be. Our informants in the Xie clan have sent back information that Chu Yang and his brothers had entered the Xie clan together. Moreover, they had stayed inside for a few days. And they had gotten drunk in the end. So, how could such a change have occurred in our place?" "That's right. This bastard has a lot of money. I have heard that he has tens of billions of gold notes and materials. It seems that we can only obtain tens of billions of gold notes at most this time." "Nonsense. He has come alone. Do you think that we can kill him?" Another person said in an irritated manner, "But we will have to face the 4 big clans." Du Xiao had already entered the O clan's manor along with Chu Yang while these 2 people were still in doubt. "Ah, Du Xiao, this is King of Hell Chu, right? He is indeed young and promising. A young hero." A man in a brocade robe came forward in large strides. 5 gray-clothed people were following him. Everyone's eyes looked at Chu Yang. "Brother Chu, this is my father." Du Xiao smiled. "So it's the O clan's lord. I'm Chu Yang." Chu Yang smiled. He was neither servile nor overbearing. "Minister Chu is too polite." The O clan's clan lord O Chengwu straightforwardly smiled. "We are indebted to Minister Chu for his grace. We have already prepared the materials for Minister Chu. Minister Chu, please come and take a look." "All right." Chu Yang smiled. "May I know what else Minister Chu needs? However, our O clan will certainly do everything for the minister." O Chengwu laughed out loud. Then he accompanied Chu Yang as they walked forward. He said, "I heard that Minister Chu had purchased the materials at a price 20% higher than the market price. This is a big favor. It doesn't matter. Anything that catches my eye and enters my heart is priceless." Chu Yang said, "Everyone has their own preferences. This Chu won't hold back as long as the O clan's lord has suitable materials or medicinal herbs. I won't hold back until I spend my last penny." Minister Chu is very straightforward. O Chengwu burst into loud laughter. Then he winked and said, "Let Du Xiao accompany Minister Chu to select the materials since this is the case. We will arrange a banquet in the hall and wait for Minister Chu to get drunk." "O clan's lord, please." Chu Yang smiled. His expression was modest. O Chengwu burst into laughter again. Then he turned around and left with everyone. "Clan lord, this person has come alone. This is a bit difficult to handle," someone said in a low voice after they had walked for some distance. "What's so difficult to handle?" O Chengwu coldly snorted and said, "He is obviously guarding against us. So he has deliberately dispersed. But he is still a little inexperienced after all. We can't make a move in our own home. But wouldn't they have joined forces? What's so difficult about making a move after they meet up? Clan Lord is wise." The sword spirit awoke from his meditative state in Chu Yang's mind. "Sword Lord, what kind of wolf's den are you in? Why is there a murderous aura all around?" "I'm in the O clan now. So I should be fine," Chu Yang chuckled. "The aura all around you is unfavorable to you. Everyone's divine sense is like that of a hungry wolf." The sword spirit was somewhat worried. "You'd better withdraw from here if you can." "I know," Chu Yang calmly replied. A cold light flashed in his eyes. He had exposed his financial resources in the Xie clan. And he had befriended the Xie clan because of this. However, the O clan couldn't hide their movements from them. He had strong financial resources. Moreover, he had the entire inventory of the Xie clan in his hands. So the O clan would obviously covet it. "It seems that the O clan has made up their mind to deal with me and the others this time. Let's see who will deal with whom." Chu Yang coldly snorted in his heart. Du Zhao's face was full of smiles. He led Chu Yang forward. Then he stretched out his hand and pointed in the air. He said, "Brother Chu, there's a secret door switch in that row of rooms in front of us. You'll find a tunnel after you open it. All the hidden treasures of my O clan are in that underground secret room." Chu Yang kindly smiled and said, "Your clan is very cautious." This place was the central location of the O clan's watermark of setting sail. It was surrounded in all directions. Moreover, hidden sentries had been set up at the highest points. The security was tight. It was indeed extremely tight. Odu Xiao laughed out loud and said, "A man without foresight is bound to have immediate worries." They had arrived in front of the door while they were talking. Odu Xiao stretched out his hand and opened the switch. A creaking sound echoed, and 2 secret passageways were revealed. Odu Xiao asked, "Brother Chu, there are some rare materials on this side. And there's our medicinal storehouse on this side. There are also many heavenly treasures on this side. Ah, Brother Chu, which side do you want to take a look at first?" Chu Yang's eyes lit up. He said, "Heavenly treasures? Brother O's words have made my heart itch. So, how about we take a look at these heavenly treasures first?" Odu Xiao laughed out loud and said, "This isn't difficult. Brother Chu, come with me." Then he walked towards the secret passageway on the left. The dark golden door on the top of the secret passageway slowly closed after the 2 of them had entered. Then it was tightly shut. The torches in the secret passageway seemed to have received some kind of order as the entrance was closed. They spontaneously ignited with a bang sound. However, no smoke came out. Instead, bursts of sweet fragrance filled the air. I was dumbstruck after I got up today. My monthly votes have been surpassed. Moreover, they've been surpassed by so much. I sighed. Brothers and sisters, I need your strength. I beg for your monthly votes. I've fought to this extent. I can only advance without retreat. I'll fight with my last breath. I'll press forward courageously. Chapter 485. What an exquisite design, Chu Yang praised from the bottom of his heart. This is just a small trick. Brother Chu must be joking. Odu Xiao smiled and took the lead to leave. A trace of complex emotions flashed through his eyes. Odu Xiao was obviously aware of the clan's arrangement. To be honest, Odu Xiao didn't approve of the clan's arrangement and means. After all, Chu Yang had given him face at that time. He was willing to extend the time limit, and was even willing to propose this alternative method. So, he had already prepared a way out for himself. This was a big favor. It didn't matter whether Chu Yang had any ulterior motives or not. But, he had prevented the O clan from losing face in front of the heroes of the world. Odu Xiao was very grateful at first. And he really wanted to repay Chu Yang. So, he wanted to give him the materials that were worth 525 million at the very least. After all, Chu Yang had the support of 4 big clans. So, his strength couldn't be underestimated. It would naturally be a good thing for the O clan if they could have such an ally. However, this situation suddenly changed after they heard about the Xie clan's matter. In the blink of an eye, everyone's thoughts changed. 10 billion in wealth. Moreover, the Xie clan had tens of billions in reserves. What kind of huge assets was this? It couldn't be denied that the total financial resources of the O clan and the Xie clan would be greater if the O clan could have these assets. The O clan's strength would rise to a new level if this wealth was used to recruit experts. The O clan was already one of the top clans of the upper 3 heavens. What would it be if it could go one step further? It would replace the AO clan, and become the number 1 clan of the upper 3 heavens. And what did it mean to be the number 1 clan? This wasn't just a matter of ranking. It was more of a matter of appeal. More and more people would come to seek refuge with the title of the number 1 clan. And the strength of the clan would also become more stable. It wouldn't be strange even if the clan were to kill its way to the upper 3 heavens after a period of time. Why is the AO clan the number 1 clan? Didn't they suddenly discover a treasure more than 200 years ago? The AO clan used to be similar to our O clan. But their strength soared after they got that treasure. What did they rely on to achieve all this? Their financial resources. The words of an elder of the O clan had thoroughly aroused the ambitions of everyone. Everyone doesn't know the true value of the treasures that the AO clan has discovered. But the AO clan wouldn't be at its current scale if the value of the treasures had exceeded a certain limit. Instead, it was even bigger, stronger. Therefore, I estimate that the treasure is only worth tens of billions, that's all. Now, we can say with certainty that we will obtain at least the same amount of wealth as AO clan as long as we obtain all of King of Helchu's wealth. In fact, we may even obtain more than that. After all, it contains the treasuries of Xie clan that have been accumulated for hundreds of years. What's the difference between this and a treasure? The future of the O clan will rise at this moment. So what are we waiting for? Even if it's risky, we still have to do it once. The elder's eloquent words made everyone's blood boil. That's right. Moreover, these 4 big clans are only supporting King of Helchu on the surface. They are relying on personal friendship and not on the benefits of their clans. This is somewhat thought-provoking. The young clan lord of the Gu clan is in charge of the entire clan. But the Gu clan isn't a top-notch clan. The clan lord of the O clan, O Qingwu, continued to analyze, and the other clans, Dong clan, Luo clan and Ji clan, are all second dukes. We may kill them. But we will be removing future troubles for the great dukes of these clans to some extent. So the backlash won't be too big even if the news leaks out. But who will know that we did it if we do it secretly? The entire O clan had made up their minds under such an atmosphere. And Odu Zhao's thoughts had also quietly changed at that moment. For the supreme glory of the number one clan, so what if he killed a few people whom he had never met before? Which clan doesn't have a mountain of corpses when it rises in the three heavens? How can a real man do things if they are trapped by mere sentiments? Everyone had decided to carry out this operation under the unity of their hearts. The situation had changed. Gu Duxing and the others hadn't followed them. However, this didn't hinder Odu Zhao's thoughts. On the contrary, this had aroused his killing intent even more. Do you think this is enough? Do you think that I won't deal with you like this? This is ridiculous. Odu Zhao's face was cordial. However, Chuyang could clearly feel the coldness in his heart. However, he didn't show it on his face. Instead, his face had become even more cordial and warm. In fact, he had become even more intimate with Odu Zhao. The two of them held each other's arms. It seemed as if they were old friends who had fallen in love with each other for decades. In fact, they were confiding in each other. It seemed as if they were speaking the words that were in their hearts. They were so cordial that they could become sworn brothers with just a few words. A big stone room appeared in front of Chuyang after they had turned a few corners. A sparkling and translucent white light was flickering inside. It turned out to be a jade shelf and a jade box. It was a dazzling lineup. Warm jade shelf, heavenly fragrant jade box. Brother Oh, you've left me dumbstruck. Chuyang was genuinely startled. The rare warm jade was regarded as a treasure in the lower three heavens. However, it was made into a shelf in this place. The heavenly fragrant jade was second only to the purple crystal in terms of preserving medicinal herbs. The purple crystal could preserve medicinal herbs for 1,000 years. The heavenly fragrant jade couldn't preserve medicinal herbs for 1,000 years. However, it could still preserve medicinal herbs for 500 years. In fact, the heavenly fragrant jade surpassed the white crystal and the blue crystal in terms of preservation. The heavenly fragrant jade didn't have the strange power and spiritual energy of the white crystal and the blue crystal. However, it was still top-notch in terms of preserving medicinal herbs. The preservation of heavenly treasures is far different from that of other medicinal herbs. Odu Zhao somewhat sighed and said, "We had spent endless financial resources to get these things in the beginning. So, how can we let outsiders know about the bitter process that led to the present scale? Brother Chu, you should understand the joys and sorrows of this process." That's indeed the case. Chuyang nodded in agreement. The rise of a clan is bound to be accompanied by countless bitterness, blood, and tears. Countless heroes have stepped forward one after another for hundreds or thousands of years. Alas, the decline of a clan is very easy. Odu Zhao sighed and said, "Yes, there are countless powerful enemies in the heavens. In fact, one doesn't even know when one offends someone. And that person can lead to the extermination of a clan. Countless painstaking efforts of the predecessors have been wasted." "That's right." Chuyang sighed and said, "But there are two common causes of disaster. First, it's a debauchee. Second, it's a big disaster because of greed." Odu Zhao's eyes flashed. He felt that Chuyang's words seemed to have a profound meaning. Why did he mention greed at this time? He smiled and said, "But riches and honor come from danger. There are many things that one can't help about, especially when one reaches the top of the pole. One can't take any risks if they don't move forward in an awkward situation. In fact, they will also decline. The helplessness of a big clan is just like the exploration of a hero. Brother Chu, we must learn from this." Chuyang smiled calmly and said, "Brother O is very wise." However, he didn't speak again. He only waited for Odu Zhao to introduce the medicinal herbs. He had wanted to see how Odu Zhao would react a moment ago. However, Odu Zhao's words had made Chuyang's heart burn with killing intent. "It seems that you have decided to seek riches and honor? Very good. Very good. Since that's the case, I can only seek riches and honor." Odu Zhao probed to see if Chuyang was aware of it. However, he couldn't help but feel ashamed when he saw that Chuyang was looking at him warmly. Chuyang's eyes were shining with kindness and magnanimity. He quickly took 2 steps forward and said, "Brother Chu, please take a look. This is the 5-colored jade petal orchid in the first jade box. This kind of medicine only grows at the bottom of a deep and secluded valley. It doesn't see the slightest bit of sunlight all year round. So, it can only grow one color every 100 years. It takes 500 years for it to have 5 colors. This 5-colored jade petal orchid is already brightly colored. Moreover, it already has a jade-like sparkling and translucent divine light. It is at least 1,500 years old. It has a miraculous effect in treating internal injuries. It can also dispel poison. It can be regarded as a divine medicine. Brother Chu, do you like it? Chu Yang carefully looked at it and said, unfortunately, it would have been a first-grade medicine if it could have completely turned into jade. This plant is precious, but it still lacks maturity. It won't be of much use to me. Odu Zhao's face stiffened as he said, Brother Chu is joking. It would have taken at least 5,000 years of maturity if it had completely turned into jade. He closed the lid of the jade box while he was speaking and pushed it back. Then he nimbly opened the second jade box and said, Brother Chu, what about this one? This is the Millennium Grass Restoration Pill. The pill's body has already turned bright red. This one? I'll take it if it's translucent and white. Chu Yang continued to belittle it. Odu Zhao's eyes flashed. He thought, this guy's vision is very high. It seems that I need some high-grade things. So he opened the third jade box and said, Brother Chu, please take a look. Odu Zhao opened 3 heavenly fragrance jade boxes in succession. But Chu Yang only shook his head. He made a lot of comments and picked out a bunch of problems. But he didn't take out any money to buy it. It was obvious that he didn't like these things. He was already 3 or 4 steps away from the first jade box at this moment. Odu Zhao gradually became impatient in his heart. He opened the 7th jade box. But he didn't get enough time to open his mouth when he saw Chu Yang's eyes brighten up. He said, this thing is pretty good. He took a step forward and lowered his head to sniff it. He then said, not bad, not bad. Odu Zhao was delighted in his heart. You finally took a fancy to it. You kept shaking your head. You almost made me lose confidence in these hidden treasures of my clan. He hastily moved closer to Chu Yang and said, Brother Chu, this one wasn't easy to come by. It was picked from the raging volcano mountain. My O clan had dispatched 3 king-level experts at that time. The 2 men gathered in front of the jade box and started to make comments. Chu Yang finally said, Brother O, you take a look at this. The market price is about 2 million. I'll offer 2,500,000. How about it? A wisp of a colorless and transparent thing quietly fell on the ground from the hem of Chu Yang's black robe when he had raised the price. It meandered on the ground as if it had a life of its own. Then it drilled into the first jade box with a schwa sound. I don't have anything else. I only have thousands of brothers as my backing. I only have to fight. He proudly said, Feng Ling has never been afraid of anyone in the past few years when it comes to fighting spirit. I only have one life. I only have to see if I dare to fight. That's all. I won't take a step back this month. I beg for monthly votes. I beg for monthly votes. Chapter 486. This jade box was originally tightly covered. But this strange thing was like an all-pervasive ghost. It had only drifted and had penetrated into the box. There was no obstruction at all. Asterisk asterisk high quality update asterisk asterisk Odu Zhao didn't realize that his heart was brimming with a sense of accomplishment. Moreover, the price that Chu Yang had offered was very fair. So he straightforwardly said, since Brother Chu wants it, then 5 million. He thought in his heart, anyway, you're just warming up your hands. These things will come back in a while. Chu Yang laughed out loud. He personally moved the jade box down and placed it at the door. He then said, Brother O, you can put everything I want at the door. You can prepare a big package for me when you move out later. It'll be convenient that way. Odu Zhao smiled and said, what's the problem? It's as Brother Chu wishes. But don't you want this jade box? I'm afraid it won't be easy to preserve it if you don't have this. I have my ways. Chu Yang forced a smile and said, I can't buy much if I include the value of this jade box. Odu Zhao laughed. The 2 of them continued to move forward and opened the 8th jade box. What made Odu Zhao depressed was that Chu Yang looked at every jade box. But he didn't want any of them. There were many priceless divine medicines in Odu Zhao's eyes. But Chu Yang only glanced at them and evaluated them. Then he walked past them. Chu Yang looked at 10 jade boxes in a row. Then he looked at a dream heart grass and paid 5 million silver taels. After that he looked at 5 more jade boxes. Then he looked at a snow lotus heart. But the amount he paid this time was somewhat big. It was 20 million silver taels. Slowly Chu Yang finished looking at 150 jade boxes on this side. But he only selected one jade box. This was very different from what Du Xiao had imagined. However, he wasn't in a hurry. After all, he would snatch it back no matter how many he chose. He walked to the other side. But Chu Yang was still very picky. He looked at half of the jade boxes and only selected two. And a whole morning had passed by. Fortunately, Chu Yang's speed was very fast. Otherwise, he wouldn't have finished looking at them in one day. Eventually, he finished looking at 300 jade boxes. Du Xiao was speechless. But Chu Yang had spent less than 100 million silver taels in this treasure trove. There were exactly 10 jade boxes, no more and no less. Chu Yang looked a little disappointed and said, "Brother O, there's something I don't know if I should say." Du Xiao hastily said, "Brother Chu, there's no harm in speaking your mind. The 1,000-year heritage of the O clan has indeed broadened my horizons. But, there are many kinds of treasures here. But it seems that there are only a few of them that are truly good. It seems that in the future your family will have to put in more effort in terms of quality and not quantity." He shook his head and sighed. "Take me for example. When I saw such a large treasury, I thought that I would be able to return with a full load. But after looking through it all, I was greatly disappointed. Look at the world-defying stage, come to the world-defying stage. This is different from your family's 1,000 years of reputation." Du Xiao was so angry that his nose became crooked. He thought in his heart, "There are so many heavenly treasures here, but you don't want them. Many of these divine medicines are almost on par with the great wonder medicines. But you can't tell whether they are good or bad. You have eyes but fail to see. And you're accusing our O clan of lacking in resources?" He forced a smile and said, Yes, Brother Chu is right." In his heart he thought, "The clan has decided to get rid of this little guy. Motherfucker, he can make me depressed to death. Well, let's go over there and take a look if that's the case." Chu Yang said in a considerate manner, "Brother O, let people move these 10 medicinal herbs out. Then find a package and put them inside. You don't have to worry about the medicinal efficacy of these herbs being lost. It's just right." Du Xiao gnashed his teeth in anger. He thought in his heart, "You can only recognize these common goods. I used to think too highly of you. It's no wonder that a bumpkin from the lower three heavens would know something. Well, let's go out quickly. This is a sealed stone room. The medicinal efficacy will be lost if it is opened once. I don't like these herbs. But they are the painstaking efforts of your family after all, so it's better to close the door as soon as possible," Chu Yang casually said. However, the meaning of his words made Du Xiao so angry that he almost vomited blood. "Brother Chu, you're absolutely right. I will close the door." Du Xiao's complexion turned ugly. He personally stacked the 10 jade boxes together. Then he lifted them with one hand and walked out first. Chu Yang chuckled and followed behind him. A wisp of light jumped out of the last jade box in the stone room, and touched the hem of Chu Yang's black clothes. Then it flashed and disappeared without a trace. Chu Yang felt a heat in his dantian. The sword point of the tribulation sword had returned with a belch. Then he stepped out of the door. Du Xiao immediately pressed the mechanism and locked the storehouse. He thought in his heart, "I finally invited this god of pestilence out. I'm so angry." Then he called people to move the 10 jade boxes out. Then the two of them walked towards the storehouse of precious materials on the other side. Jiang thought. Sword Spirit fiercely jumped up. "Fuck! Where did so much medicinal efficacy come from? This is too much." Sword Spirit suddenly became flustered. "Does this little bastard want to explode? This is too much, 10 times more medicinal efficacy than the last time I looted Di Wuqing Rose storehouse of medicinal ingredients. Oh no, it's dozens of times more." Sword Spirit didn't even have time to nag. He hastily used his hand to draw a circle, and drew a transparent area in the tribulation space. Then he waved his other hand and countless pure medicinal efficacies rushed in like a torrential flood. Sword Spirit had used 80% of his power to extract from Chu Yang's meridians. However, more and more medicinal efficacies were gushing out from the sword point of the tribulation sword. They were surging violently. Too much, too much. Sword Spirit clenched his teeth, and used all of his power to fiercely absorb. I'll absorb. I'll absorb again. I'll absorb again. Fuck, it's never over. Chu Yang's face suddenly turned red as soon as he walked into another hidden treasure house. Moreover, his body also became somewhat hot. The violent medicinal efficacies suddenly rushed out, and attacked Chu Yang's meridians. It felt as if they were about to break. "Brother Chu, what's wrong with you?" Du Xiao looked at Chu Yang in a strange manner. Why is your face so red all of a sudden? I'm so surprised. Chu Yang opened his eyes wide in pleasant surprise. His body was slightly trembling. It seemed as if he had discovered a new continent. It's so unexpected, so pleasantly surprised. Brother O, you have so many top-notch forging materials here. It's great. Brother O, I'm a little excited. I hope you don't mind. Ha, Brother Chu is a true lover. How can I take offense? Odu Xiao felt very refreshed in his heart. Motherfucker. I finally made you dumbstruck. Look at how your eyes are shining in shock. Your face is flushed and your whole body is trembling pitifully. Humph. How could my O clan not have any treasures? Chu Yang tried his best to control his body. But he was still unable to endure the violent medicinal efficacies. So he let out a strange cry and rushed into the O clan's storehouse. His eyes shone and his hands and feet trembled. His entire body trembled as he stroked this item and then stroked that item. Fuck, star iron nightmare steel wow. Red cloud steel Gosh, there's mysterious golden sand here. Awesome. Is this heavenly silver? This is inconceivable. I'm extremely shocked. I'm so excited, oh my god. Chu Yang was extremely excited while inspecting the items. He was also praying in his heart, fuck, Sword Spirit Great Master, please hurry up. I can't hold on much longer here. Sword Spirit was trying his best to extract the medicinal efficacies in Chu Yang's mind. Soon. You have to hold on a little longer. But I can't hold on much longer. Chu Yang screamed in his heart. Fuck, the medicinal herbs here can't be compared with the ones collected by Diwu Qingro in the lower three heavens. How can any of these be ordinary goods if they can enter the treasure house of a colossus like the O clan? Every single one of them can lead to a fight. Chu Yang had commanded the sword point to search and confiscate the O clan's property. So it was very satisfying. However, the consequences were also incomparably fierce. There's a poison spirit behind me? This guy isn't stupid. It would have been bad if he had seen that Chu Yang wasn't excited, and had instead been stimulated by the medicinal efficacies. Eventually, the heat in Chu Yang's meridians began to subside just as he was about to lose control. The medicinal efficacies of the sword point of the tribulation sword had begun to diminish. Sword Spirit also heaved a sigh of relief. He continued to extract the medicinal efficacies and said, it's okay. You finally returned to normal. The medicinal efficacies were like a tsunami earlier. Even an experienced and knowledgeable person like me was startled. Chu Yang finally heaved a sigh of relief. His complexion also gradually returned to normal. Odu Xiao was behind Chu Yang. He was secretly happy to see Chu Yang so excited. However, he couldn't help but feel doubtful when he saw that Chu Yang was overly excited. It's impossible to be this excited, right? He was about to speak when he saw that Chu Yang had already turned around. He smiled embarrassedly and said, Brother O, I couldn't restrain myself when I saw so many rare materials. Cough. I'm too ashamed to show my face. I've made a joke out of myself in front of Brother O. It doesn't matter. This is human nature. Brother Chu is the embodiment of a real man's true nature. How can I make a joke out of you? Odu Zhao's doubts disappeared. He laughed heartily and said, it seems that Brother Chu is very satisfied with these things? Satisfied. I'm naturally very satisfied. Chu Yang burst into loud laughter. His complexion had already returned to normal at this moment. The medicinal efficacies of the tribulation sword were still being output. However, the sword spirit had already absorbed them all. Chu Yang had chosen some relatively precious materials after some bargaining. He hadn't been stingy and had thrown out more than 8 billion. Odu Xiao opened the door, and let the servants of the O clan come in one after another. Then they moved out all the materials that Chu Yang had chosen. Then they arranged 10 sturdy carriages according to Chu Yang's request, and put them on the carriages. Come to world-defying heavens to see world-defying heavens. Chapter 487. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, Chu Yang drank a few cups of tea and picked his teeth. Then he calmly said his goodbyes. He declined Odu Zhao's insincere invitation to stay. Then he jumped on his horse and drove the 10 big carriages away. Boundless confidence. High-quality update fastest ***. Send 2 Emperor-level experts to follow him. The rest of you stand by. O Chengwu looked at Chu Yang's departing silhouette and gave a gloomy order, don't get too close to them. Come back and report as soon as you discover that they have reunited. Then the clan will dispatch experts to catch them all in one fell swoop. Yes. The two gray shadows flashed at the same time and chased after him like birds. Chengwu's face was gloomy as he ordered, "Second elder, third elder, fourth elder." "Yes. Please give your orders, Patriarch. Immediately prepare the family's strong men. The three of you will lead the forces of 30 king-level experts. There will be 2 elders and 5 emperor-level experts. Get ready to attack at any time." "Yes. Once this matter is started, there is no turning back." He had to kill them all. 11 people from the Gu clan, 1 from the Ji clan, 1 from the Dong clan, 1 from the Luo clan, 1 from the Mo clan and 1 from Chuyang. A total of 10 people. If one of them managed to escape, it would be a huge problem. Got it? Yes. This old man is confident that none of these juniors will escape. The second elder's eyes flashed with intense killing intent. The strength of 5 emperor-level experts and 30 king-level experts was only enough to deal with 15 king-level experts. It was as easy as using a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. If the other party still managed to slip through the net with such strength, then it would be the biggest joke in the world. Chuyang slowly drove the carriage under the moonlight. He looked relaxed and carefree. He didn't look vigilant at all. So, they continued to move forward after they had left the O clan. Chuyang slowly walked for 40 to 50 miles, and saw a large forest in front of him. Chuyang drove the carriage to the edge of the forest and then stopped. He quickly entered the carriage and put the items into the space of tribulation one by one as fast as he could. Then he asked the sword spirit to make a big wine jar in the tribulation space and threw the 2 poisonous dragon mosquitoes' eyes into it. They were 2 bowl-sized pearls, the yin-yang poison dragon eyes. As long as the 2 of them were put together, there was no poison in the world that could not be cured. This thing was an indispensable treasure in the battle against the O clan. After finishing all this, Chuyang's body flashed, and he sat on the roof of the carriage. He took out a jug of wine from his bosom and looked at the moon in the night sky. He poured himself a cup of wine and drank by himself. However, the 2 emperor-level experts who were tailing him were very anxious because of this guy's leisurely demeanor. "Fuck you, hurry up. Hurry up and meet up with the other little bastards. This old man and the others can catch all of you in one fell swoop. What was the point of dragging it out like this? Why aren't you leaving? Are you waiting for them here? However, isn't this place too close to our O clan? Do you have the guts? Or do you trust us completely?" After a long time, Chuyang stretched his body and muttered to himself, "It's already so late. I'm so sleepy." He slid down and made a bed on the floor. It looked like he was going to sleep. The 2 emperor-level experts were watching from afar. It seemed as if their eyes were about to spew fire. "This bastard." However, Chuyang was about to lie down when he suddenly sat up and muttered to himself, "Motherfucker, I drank too much wine in the O clan. I'll urinate first. It would be very bad if I were to hold it in during the night." Then he lifted his pants and rushed into the woods. The 2 emperor-level experts were speechless for a while. They then sighed to each other, "Motherfucker, it's our misfortune to have been assigned to follow such a guy. Motherfucker, it's night now and there's no one around. Wouldn't you have solved this matter if you had lowered your head? You even went into the woods? You're a big man. Why are you so particular about this?" They were speechless when they heard a rustling sound coming from the woods. Then it seemed as if someone had farted twice. Chuyang's muttering voice was heard, "Motherfucker, it seems that the O clan is too enthusiastic. I ate a little too much." The rustling sound came from the trees. It seems that this guy is going to urinate all the way inside. The 2 emperor-level experts had black lines on their foreheads. Suddenly a scream was heard, "Motherfucker! There's a black bear here." Then they heard the sound of a struggle and the screams of a black bear. The 2 emperor-level experts were dumbstruck. They felt as if they had been struck by lightning. Where can you find such a good thing? You can even touch a black bear when you're defecating? The sound finally disappeared after a while. Then someone's relieved voice resounded, "It's finally done. Motherfucker, a bear came out when I was about to take off my pants." Then there was no sound for a long time. The 2 emperor-level experts felt that something was wrong. They were about to go and take a look. But they suddenly heard a burst of crackling sounds. "This bastard has diarrhea?" The 2 emperor-level experts were very far away. But they still felt somewhat nauseous when they heard this sound. Their complexions turned pale and they felt like vomiting. Then, another burst of crackling sounds echoed after a while. Then, another burst of crackling sounds was heard after a while. "It seems that this guy's diarrhea is very serious. Motherfucker, I remember that I didn't poison him in the O clan for fear of arousing his suspicion. Could it be that someone has given him diarrhea medicine?" The 2 emperor-level experts were somewhat puzzled. Half an hour passed. But the crackling sounds were still echoing from time to time. The two Emperor-level experts were speechless. You've eaten a lot, but you must have had a lot of diarrhea, right? How come you still have some left after listening to this sound? Suddenly, the two Emperor-level experts looked at each other, and saw the suspicion in each other's eyes. Something's wrong. Even an expert can't bear this continuous diarrhea, right? Moreover, he should be able to control it with his cultivation. The two Emperor-level experts jumped up and flew into the woods. They felt that the stench was overwhelming as soon as they entered. They couldn't help but cover their noses. They followed the smell all the way and finally saw the scene. The two old men covered their noses. And they flew into a rage at the same time. They saw a huge black bear in front of them. It was tied to a tree. It had a very helpless and aggrieved look on its face. Its mouth was stuffed with a piece of star steel. So it couldn't make even the slightest sound. Moreover, there was a mountain of feces and urine under its buttocks. This was a black bear. Moreover, it was a black bear that had diarrhea. It seems that this black bear's diarrhea has reached the point of dehydration. Chuyang had caught this big guy, tied it to a tree and fed it laxatives. Then he had stuffed its mouth. It was no wonder that the two Emperor-level experts had been constantly hearing the sound of diarrhea for the past 2 hours. As for Minister Chu himself, it was unknown where he had run off to in these 2 hours. There was a piece of paper on top of the black bear's head, and there seemed to be some writing on it. The 8th elder was about to go crazy with anger. He grabbed the paper and saw that it said, "It's late at night. Your Excellency has worked hard. In particular, Your Excellency has patiently waited for the black bear to have diarrhea. Such moral integrity and action are rare in the world. I have just received your clan's generous hospitality, and I have nothing to repay you with. I have specially asked Brother Bear to prepare some gold in order to properly entertain Your Excellency. Your Excellency can eat it according to your taste. Please feel free to enjoy it. It's absolutely not poisonous. Please, please, please. Please don't be polite." Then he had drawn a big smiley face at the end of the paper. It was brimming with happiness. "Damn son of a bitch. This old man will dismember your body into 10,000 pieces." The 8th elder roared loudly. He put his hands together and smashed that piece of paper into pieces. His face turned purple like a tomato. Crackle. The black bear started again. The 8th elder was so angry that it seemed as if he was about to go crazy. He raised his hand and smashed the black bear's huge body with a thunderous sound. The bear's feces and urine splashed everywhere. The two Emperor-level experts rushed back in a distressed state. They saw the 10 carriages outside. They thought, "Motherfucker. You can leave, but can the carriages also leave?" They stepped forward to take a look. And they couldn't help but cry out in alarm. The carriages were empty. They had been full of materials. But there wasn't even a bit of them left now. Only the 4 horses on each carriage were left. They were staring innocently at the 2 furious elders. "I'm so angry." The 8th elder and the 9th elder felt extremely angry in their chests. But they couldn't release it. In fact, they felt as if their chests were about to explode. "Continue to chase. I don't believe that this little thing can fly to the sky." The 2 of them made a decision without any hesitation. Then they suddenly flew out of the forest. They passed through the forest like 2 big birds. Chuyang entered the forest. Then he used the inner core of a bear to lure a black bear. Then he did the same thing. Then he left silently. Chuyang's escape was very smooth since the black bear was there to cover him. He crossed the forest in less than a quarter of an hour. Then he made a few false directions in order to mislead the enemy. Then he started to go to the agreed place. He went at full speed all the way. In fact, he looked like a fleeting shadow. Then he flashed in the sky and disappeared without a trace. He went all the way. Then he saw Gu Duxing and the others moving forward at a leisurely pace. Chuyang caught up with them at flying speed and said, "Go at full speed. Find an advantageous place and get ready to meet the enemy." Gu Duxing knew that the situation was urgent. So he didn't ask any questions. So he ordered everyone to rush at full speed. Chuyang held Mo Qingwu in his arms. Then he put her on his shoulder. The brothers took off the star iron from their bodies. Everyone felt as light as a swallow. It's like a gust of wind passing through the earth. Mo Qingwu obediently lowered her body. Then she hugged Chuyang tightly to reduce the wind resistance. However, she felt a little sad in her heart. "I'm too weak. I can't help Brother Chuyang. Instead, I'll drag him down. How good would it be if my strength could be of the greatest help to Brother Chuyang?" The gust of wind blew Mo Qingwu's fine black hair. And Mo Qingwu's heart was filled with a desire for strength for the first time. Such a thought. It's not for anything else. I don't want to be a burden to Brother Chu Yang. I want to help him. I don't want to be a burden. This thought rose in Mo Qingwu's heart for the first time. I want to become a powerhouse. I want to protect Brother Chu Yang. The wind whistled. Mo Qingwu's heart was rolling like a tide. Chapter 488. Chu Yang took out a water bag and threw it to Gu Duxing as they flew. Duxing, give everyone a sip. The enemy might catch up with us at any time. Alright. Gu Duxing didn't know what this was. But he knew that Chu Yang must have done this for some reason. So he raised it and drank a mouthful. Then he threw it to Dong Wuxiang. Dong Wuxiang drank a mouthful and threw it to Luo Kudi. Everyone drank a mouthful of water after this cycle had been repeated for a week. Gu Duxing asked at this moment, Big brother, what's the use of this water? Drinking a mouthful can make you immune to poison for a period of time. Chu Yang softly replied. So it's the O clan. Gu Duxing got angry. His eyes turned cold. Anti-poison. There's no one else apart from the O clan. Presumably the O clan wants to snatch the resources in your hands? Dong Wuxiang asked in a heavy voice. He was usually taciturn. But he was very good at looking at problems. Yes, Chu Yang nodded. The O clan is ungrateful. GMO spat angrily and said, O Du Xiao would have disgraced the O clan and MT Dingjun if it weren't for you, big brother. Now the O clan is biting the hand that feeds them. They're simply inhumane. Gu Duxing smiled and said, but the O clan is trying to be clever and end up with a blunder. They would have had a chance to succeed if they had intercepted us and fought us. But they're too smart for their own good. They sent O Du Xiao to lure us into the mountain villa. They wanted to catch us in one fell swoop. They wanted to wait for us to be exhausted. They wanted to take advantage of the terrain. It's a pity that man proposes but God disposes. Big brother found out ahead of time. So he made us scatter and leave. Then Big brother went in to trade. But they were so anxious that they flew into a rage. But they didn't dare to make a move, ha ha ha. Dong Wuxiang instantly understood. So he couldn't help but happily laugh. Big brother, you must have made some gains after entering the O clan? Luo Kadi curiously asked. It's nothing. I spent 8 billion in the O clan. I bought more than half of the rare and precious materials of the O clan. Chu Yang smiled. I also stole some things from their storehouse while I was at it. Brilliant. Boss, you're really brilliant. The four brothers gave him a thumbs up and prostrated themselves in admiration. Going to someone else's house, going into someone else's treasure vault, and actually stealing something from someone else. This kind of ability could be considered rare. Of course, the few of them didn't know how much Chu Yang had stolen. They only thought that he had stolen a little bit. They simply didn't think that this greedy big brother would actually rob someone's medicinal storehouse in one pot. When he said that he stole some things, he didn't really mean that he stole some things. There was nothing left in the O clan's storehouse at present, except for the heavenly fragrance jade box. There should be some ashes in each jade box. We should reach the chill wind forest if we walk forward for another 300 kilometers. The chill wind forest should be a good place to go. Gu Duxing said, the terrain there is complicated. It is suitable for guerrilla warfare. He paused for a moment and then said, but, we need to pay attention to one thing. The O clan must know that an ordinary king-level expert is nothing more than a free meal for us since they want to attack us. Therefore they would certainly dispatch an emperor-level expert. Moreover, there would be more than one emperor-level expert. Therefore this battle will be extremely dangerous. It is very likely that the entire army will be wiped out. But there will certainly be casualties even if we are lucky. Everyone must be aware of this. Gu Duxing said, now if any of you wants to withdraw you can do so now. You can go in another direction. We won't stop you. We won't force you either. These words were clearly spoken to the 10 king-level experts of his clan. He knew that none of his brothers would back out. There was no response for a long time after these words were spoken. Gu Duxing's heart sank. He then said, everyone, you don't need to force yourself. After all, there may be a lack of care between life and death. Moreover, I'll have to trouble you to inform the clan in case something bad happens to us. I'll be eternally grateful. This was a reason. Moreover, it was the only reason that could allow them to leave the battle in an honorable manner. Many people would forget righteousness for the sake of profit. Many people would be greedy for life and afraid of death. Many people would escape in the face of danger. So they would need such a reason. And Gu Duxing had taken the initiative to throw it out at this moment. There was an uproar as soon as this reason came out. The three men exchanged meaningful glances with each other. Then they suddenly stopped and said, "Young clan lord is right. The three of us will go in another direction. We can also attract some enemies for the young clan lord." A cold light flashed in Gu Duxing's eyes as he said, "Be careful on the way." He didn't look back. Then he sped away with the others. Only these three men remained. The three men looked at each other. Then they chose another direction and left. "Big brother, do we really want to attract the enemies for them? Are you stupid? The O clan's headquarters will be besieged by the O clan. They will die for sure. What's the use of the three of us? Let's quickly run for our lives." "Big brother, you're right. We can't escape from the Gu clan if we abandon our masters in the face of danger. So we'll only end up dead if we return to the Gu clan." The three men's silhouettes disappeared in the dim light of the night. "Young clan lord, we shouldn't let our fighting strength slip away at this time." The old king-level expert of the Gu clan flew into a rage when he saw that his subordinates were fleeing in the face of danger. He wanted to chase after them and kill them. But he was stopped by Gu Duxing. "Third uncle is overthinking. The more dangerous the situation is, the more we must ensure the purity of the team." Gu Duxing smiled deeply and said, "These people can abandon their friends and run away. So, it's hard to guarantee that they won't chop off our heads at the most dangerous time of the battle. And we can't afford to take this risk now. So we might as well let them leave on their own." Duxing is right. Chu Yang continued, "Moreover, they are fleeing for their lives. But how can the O clan not know that there are 10 of us in total? And there's a possibility that the news will leak out if they leave. Therefore the O clan won't let them off no matter what. So, it's inevitable that they will die in the end. Moreover, they will inadvertently implicate the enemy's pursuing force for us." "You're right. It's really like this." The old king-level expert was called Gu Qingfeng. He couldn't help but be shocked when he heard these words. He saw that Chu Yang and his brothers weren't surprised at all. So he knew that these youngsters had already thought of this point. So he couldn't help but sigh and say, "The younger generation will surpass us in time." The two elders of the O clan had been wandering around Chu Yang's area for a long time. Then they finally found the right direction. But they had already covered 400 miles by the time they had caught up with them. "Quickly send a message to the clan. Tell them that they are rushing towards the Chill Wind Forest. There were originally 10 of them. But 3 of them are missing now. They must have gone to ask for help. We must intercept and kill those 3 people. We mustn't let them escape in any case. Otherwise, there will be no end of trouble in the future," the 8th elder anxiously said as he flew forward. The elder took out a small golden eagle from his bosom. He wrote a few words on it and hung it on his leg. Then he loosened his hand and the small eagle soared into the sky. It circled once and disappeared without a trace. The 2 elders looked at each other. Then Jianghu caught up with them. "The Chill Wind Forest is in front of us." Gu Duxing stretched out his hand and pointed. He saw a dusky area in front of them. It seemed as if the clouds and gloomy fog had gathered here. The chilly wind was angrily howling, and a cold and gloomy aura was assaulting their faces from a few miles away. This Chill Wind Forest is a strange place. And it has resulted in the peculiar topography of this place. You can't see the sun even if you go there in broad daylight. In fact, you can't even see people on the other side if it's serious. Dong Wuxian was afraid that Chu Yang didn't understand these things since he had just come up from the lower 3 heavens. "What a good place." Chu Yang's eyes lit up. 2 people are chasing after us from behind. It seems that one of them is a first-grade Emperor-level expert, and the other one is a second-grade Emperor-level expert. The sword spirit hurriedly reminded Chu Yang in his mind, "They are the 2 people who were chasing after you a moment ago." "So fast." Chu Yang muttered to himself irresolutely. "These 2 people should be the vanguard. The main troops shouldn't have had enough time to arrive here," the sword spirit reminded him. "So to say, these 2 people are alone?" Chu Yang rolled his eyes, and a cruel murderous intention suddenly appeared on his face. "Du Xing, return immediately after we enter the Chill Wind Forest. Prepare for an ambush." Chu Yang quickly said in a low voice on one side, "There are 2 Emperor-level experts of the O clan behind us. This is our only chance to break through them one by one." "Good." A sharp light flashed in Gu Duxing's eyes. He waved his hand and shouted, "Increase the speed." Everyone crossed the distance of 5 miles with a few whooshing sounds like a black cloud, and entered the Chill Wind Forest. The dreadful chilly wind and gloomy fog engulfed everyone's figures. Gu Duxing issued an order as soon as they entered the forest. Everyone stopped. Then he started to make arrangements without any explanation. The remaining 7 sovereigns were arranged together in a relatively safe location. Mo Qingwu was placed on a distant tree by Chu Yang. Mo Qingwu felt even more uncomfortable as she watched Chu Yang turn around and leave. I want strength. I want strength. I want strength. I should have been by elder brother Chu Yang's side when he was fighting. I shouldn't have been watching him from afar with anxiety. Mo Qingwu's heart was getting more and more urgent. The remaining 5 brothers were naturally arranged by their big brother, Chu Yang. Du Xing and GMO are on the left. Wushang and Kudi are on the right. I'll take the lead. Chu Yang looked at the 4 brothers in an indisputable manner. I'll use a thunderbolt method to make them fall into a passive situation in one fell swoop. Then you guys look for the right opportunity to attack. You must inflict heavy damage on the enemy in the first strike. They are 2 Emperor-level experts. You mustn't give them a chance to recover their energy and react. Yes. The 4 agreed at the same time. They unsheathed their sabers and swords and held them in their hands. They would inevitably make a sound if they pulled out their sabers and swords at that time. Therefore they held their sabers and swords in their hands in advance. They want our wealth. So we'll take their lives. Chu Yang coldly said, this is only the beginning. Everyone held their breaths as Chu Yang made a gesture. Chapter 489. It was very late at night. It was almost dawn. The chill wind forest had become even darker. The whistling chilly wind was blowing softly, and was issuing a ghost-like wailing sound. 2 shadows flashed and appeared at the entrance of the chill wind forest. They were the 8th elder and the elder of the O clan. The 2 of them hid behind a large boulder in a flash. They carefully examined the surroundings and finally confirmed that the other party had entered the chill wind forest. Let's go in and take a look. The 8th elder and the elder looked at each other. They could see each other's thoughts. The chill wind forest is certainly dark. But this also has its advantages. We can't see the other party and the other party can't see us either. However, the divine sense of an emperor-level expert is much stronger than that of a king-level expert. The higher one's cultivation is, the more advantage one has in this forest. We can kill them as long as we figure out the other party's position. And we can stall them even if we can't kill them. This will make it easier for the team to act after daybreak. The 2 of them had made up their minds. They floated up and went inside the chill wind forest. They were emperor-level experts. Moreover, they were tracking in the dark. So, it was impossible for the other party to discover their tracks. Therefore, they weren't very concerned even though they were on guard in their hearts. Their self-confidence was completely reasonable. After all, Chu Yang and the others couldn't discover them if they were alone. However, Chu Yang had a sword spirit that had cultivated for more than 10,000 years inside his body. Suddenly they heard a ghost-like wailing and wolf-like howling sound. The 2 of them couldn't help but force a smile. This chill wind forest deserves its reputation. They spread out their divine sense to explore and cautiously moved forward. They couldn't even see their own fingers after they had taken 3 or 4 steps. Chu Yang didn't hesitate in the fog when they had entered the chill wind forest. He immediately launched an operation. His black clothes fluttered, and he appeared in the dense fog like a demon god. His long sword flashed and he silently launched a move. What harm is there in slaughtering the entire world? The 2 elders felt darkness before their eyes as soon as they entered. So they couldn't help but subconsciously close their eyes. Suddenly the dense fog in front of them fluctuated. Then an extremely swift and fierce sword light suddenly appeared. It went straight for thousands of miles and swept away everything in its path. The sword light was so sudden that neither of them had anticipated it. In fact, there wasn't even the slightest sign before the sword light had appeared. With a flash of sword light, it was already in front of his eyes. This sword strike was so terrifying that even the 2 emperor-level experts had never seen it in their 100 years of experience. The 2 of them simultaneously felt a boundless murderous aura enveloping them. His entire body felt cold. With a fierce roar he hastily fought back. With 2 clanging sounds, 2 swords were unsheathed at the same time to meet this sword light. However, the strength that he hurriedly used was far from the strength that he should have. Moreover, this sword was the double heaven sword technique that had been extinct in the double heaven continent for 10,000 years. The world's #1 sword art. The sword with the greatest killing intent. What harm is there in slaughtering the entire world? The sword light was like a thunderbolt in the sky, striking down. Like a bolt of lightning, it came into contact with the 2 men's hastily raised swords. With a crackling sound, the long swords that had been in their hands for a long time turned into fragments in an instant. The sword chi surged wildly, and the two of them simultaneously spat out a mouthful of blood. However, the sword power of the newcomer didn't stop. It continued to rush forward aggressively. Under the counterattack of the two emperor-level experts, Chu Yang's chest became stuffy, and his throat became sweet. He almost spat out a mouthful of blood. However, he forcibly endured it. The sword light flashed again, and the sharp will buried deep will not change, gathering the wind and clouds to become the emperor. Two moves with murderous aura continued to appear. Chu Yang wanted to use all the moves of the Calamity Sword technique in one go. However, he felt a piercing pain in his chest as soon as he used these two moves. The counterattack of the emperor-level experts wasn't the full strength of the counterattack, but it still wasn't something that Chu Yang could easily withstand with his current cultivation. Chu Yang had no choice but to give up his original plan. However, these two moves had already filled the sky with dazzling sword light. It suddenly covered down like an inescapable net. The sword light was like rain and the sword energy was everywhere. With a few schwa 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 sounds, several crisscrossing bloody wounds appeared on the two men's bodies. They were so deep that their bones could be seen. Blood spurted out. The two men were shocked. They were scared out of their wits. They frantically attacked a few times with their palms. Then they recklessly retreated to the left and right. Chu Yang would have been like an arrow at the end of its flight if they hadn't retreated. Then he wouldn't have posed any threat to them. Moreover, their previous arrangement wouldn't have had any effect on them. However, they had no choice but to retreat. The first sword move had already scared them out of their wits. They immediately confirmed that the opposite party was an emperor-level expert. Moreover, it was a sword emperor. Otherwise, how could he issue such a swift and fierce sword move? And such a mighty sword power? They would have been courting death if they hadn't retreated in the face of a hidden sword emperor. They could have turned defeat into victory and saved their lives only by retreating first and stabilizing their footing. Therefore they had no choice but to retreat first. However, they had delivered themselves to the edge of the sword by retreating and dodging. A biting cold sword intention was issued from the left. Gu Du Xing, the Sword King, had made his move. However, his long sword had already pierced out like a viper before this sword intention had arrived. His target was the heart of the Eighth Elder. At the same time, a cylindrical sword light flew out. Ji Mo's body and sword had merged into one. He silently flew high in the sky, and recklessly attacked the Eighth Elder on the left. The Elder staggered back on the right. He screamed out in pain. But a tall and sturdy figure suddenly jumped high in the sky before he could react. Then, a dark and heavy saber fiercely chopped down with a might that could chop off a mountain. This saber strike didn't have any follow-up moves. It didn't have any ingenuity. However, he had concentrated his entire body's essence, energy, and spirit on this saber strike. This saber strike was sure to kill. Even if the sky is in front of this saber strike, I will separate him. Then, a sword light pierced out from behind him like a viper. Second young master Luo Kudi had sinisterly blocked all the escape routes of this emperor-level expert. The elder let out a desperate scream. He had suffered 3 consecutive attacks of a peerless sword technique in a hurry. So he had sustained serious injuries. He was still in a state of shock. But he hadn't expected that a wild tyrant Saber King had been arranged to block his escape route. He hastily raised his left hand, and circulated his martial power to block the attack. Then he quickly took out a small and exquisite dagger with his right hand, and went forward to meet the attack. He flew back at the same time. He would be able to save his life if he could block the attack even if his arm would be crippled because of it. Snap. The saber fiercely chopped down and his left hand was cut off. The dagger in his right hand went forward to meet the attack. Then the saber chopped down indifferently like a sovereign descending to the world. Dong Wuxiang was a sovereign with a saber in his hand. No one would dare to disobey a sovereign descending to the world. This was an innate imposing manner. No one could imitate it. Clang. The dagger broke. The saber carried a wild and violent force, and suddenly chopped down on the forehead of this emperor-level expert who was retreating. Blood appeared. Luo Kudi's long sword pierced into the back of this emperor-level expert's heart without any reservation at this moment. This emperor-level expert had been thoroughly cut off from the front and the back. The saber continued to fall. Then, it accurately chopped this emperor-level expert into 2 halves from the top of his head to his crotch with a schwa sound. The elder had attacked with his palm before his death. But it was already powerless. Dong Wuxiang had kicked him out. And half of his body had turned into a rain of blood in the sky. Dong Wuxiang's figure coldly appeared at this time. His stature was tall and sturdy. He looked like the legendary god of war. His blade-like vision was looking at Gu Duxing's battle situation. Gu Duxing's sword was like a thunderbolt on the other side. It was faster than the speed of light. In fact, the black dragon sword was sprinting at such a short distance. But the friction between the sword and the air had become hot. The sword pierced through the heart. The eighth elder had the cultivation of a second-grade emperor-level expert. But he didn't have enough time to react. The sword pierced through his heart. However, his staggering footsteps didn't stop as he retreated. Gu Duxing had already begun to withdraw his sword and retreat when he felt a pain in his chest. The eighth elder exposed a cruel and desperate smile on his face. He suddenly pounced forward, and let the sword pierce through his heart once again. He then pounced forward. Duxing, withdraw your sword. Jianghu roared. Gu Duxing loosened his palm and fiercely dashed away from the side. The eighth elder's palm hit empty air with a bang sound. Only a small part of his strength brushed past the side of Gu Duxing's body. Gu Duxing spat out a mouthful of blood with a wah sound. His body repeatedly rolled. The eighth elder ferociously roared, and was about to step forward to pursue and attack. However, a brilliant light flashed in midair at this moment. Jimo's body and sword merged into one. Then, a gorgeous and resplendent beam of light rushed over, and engulfed the eighth elder's entire body in the sword light. This second-grade emperor-level expert didn't even have time to issue a final cry. He turned into minced meat under the gorgeous sword light. The sword light converged. GMO picked up the boiling black dragon sword and rushed over. Second brother, are you alright? I'm fine. Gu Duxing felt as if half of his body had been torn apart. But he resisted the pain and stood up straight. Then he received the black dragon sword. This fight had ended as soon as it had started. It was so fast that there was no time to react. Everything had already been settled. 2 emperor-level experts had died in such an unjust ambush. Everyone looked at each other and felt somewhat horrified. GMO and Luo Kudi were still in a state of shock after the fight had ended. They had been focused on killing the enemy a moment ago. So they hadn't felt anything. But they couldn't help but feel weak in the knees as they recalled the fight. Even Dong Wuxiang and Gu Duxing were somewhat worried. Emperor-level expert. He was such a high and aloof existence before this. And the target that we're working so hard for has died in our own hands? It turns out that a king-level expert can also kill an emperor-level expert. Dong Wuxiang let out a long sigh. That indescribable melancholy in his voice gradually subsided. Instead, a strong killing intention gradually rose in his body. The saber energy on his body also became more and more berserk. Something called self-confidence violently gushed out from his body. It seemed as if this short fight had released the demon of slaughter from his heart. Not only him, but the temperament of Gu Duxing, GMO, and Luo Kudi had also changed after this fight. After all, they had successfully killed emperor-level experts with the cultivation of king-level experts. It had been a siege and an ambush. However, the invincible image of emperor-level experts in their hearts had collapsed with a loud rumble. Chapter 490. One must know that emperor-level experts were at the peak of the 3 heavens. The big clans had monarch-level experts of higher levels. However, they were old monsters who had lived for God knows how many years. In fact, they wouldn't appear even once in a few decades. Some of them wouldn't appear even once in 100 or 200 years. Even his own family didn't know and didn't dare to confirm if these people were still alive. The impression that the 3 heavenly emperors were invincible had been deeply engraved in everyone's heart for a long time. In fact, it had even developed to the point where there was a rumor, the big clans of the 3 heavens can't have a foothold in the 3 heavens if they don't have an emperor-level expert. Becoming an emperor-level expert had become the lifelong goal of the 3 heavens youngsters. Therefore, the Gu clan had imprisoned Shuo Miaoling because of the promotion of an emperor-level expert. This was admittedly a kind of motivation. However, it was also an invisible shackle. That was because emperor-level experts were so supreme that they could become Leduo. However, what would happen if they realized their lifelong Leduo? Therefore, many experts of the 3 heavens would have a feeling of arriving at the dock after they had cultivated to the emperor level. Mentality was extremely important for martial arts. This feeling was basically announcing that they had reached the end of their life. Gu Duxing and the others had grown up in such clans. So, it was inevitable that they would have this mentality. Therefore, Chuyang wanted to break this mentality. Chuyang wanted to lead his brothers to take the initiative to kill emperor-level experts even though the O clan hadn't dealt with them yet. He wanted to break this mentality. This kind of illusory myth would be broken only if an emperor-level expert would die in front of him and by his own hands. The real purpose of Chu Yang's arrangement for this robbery and killing was to walk through this mental path. And this was a very important part of it. Not just emperor-level experts. We can even kill monarch-level experts as long as we make proper arrangements. Chu Yang smiled faintly. His voice was filled with a kind of fanatical self-confidence. This kind of self-confidence quickly spread to the brothers. The 5 of them didn't speak, but their eyes were shining. It was a kind of light that had broken through the shackles of their hearts. They felt their fighting spirit boiling at this moment. In fact, they had even forgotten about their injuries. Everyone had the same thought in their hearts. King-level experts can kill emperor-level experts. They can even exterminate monarch-level experts. But what if we reach monarch-level experts? Wouldn't we be able to exterminate saint-level experts? If this continued, what was a supreme martial artist? Chu Yang let out a sigh of relief. He knew that these people had completely passed through this mental journey. So he finally felt relieved. Only then did he feel the pain in his body. In the battle just now, Chu Yang's early attacks were the most important. Therefore, the injuries he suffered this time were also extremely serious. Right now, he had limitless medicinal energy in his body. He had all the incomplete heavy pills he needed, so he didn't have to worry at all. Shi and Gu Duxing each ate one, and it didn't take long for them to recover. Gu Duxing let out a sigh of relief. He opened his eyes and said, "So this is what it feels like to kill a strong enemy. Hee, to think that I even had the other 7 people lying in ambush at the back, prepared for them to come out and make the final strike if we couldn't do it. I didn't expect that it would be completely useless." Everyone laughed. In this battle, we have formed a few initial formations that are worthy of being proud of. Chu Yang concluded, Wu Shang's aggressiveness, Du Xing's acute spirit, and Ji Mo's courage in defeating the enemy. These are the most precious things. And they will be our biggest reliance in the future. You must firmly remember the characteristics of your brothers. The future battles will be ever-changing. So, you must maximize your strengths on the basis of possibilities. Only then will you be able to reach the end. Gu Duxing, Dong Wushang, and the others deeply nodded. Moreover, killing an expert isn't that easy. You can kill an expert, but it depends on how you kill him. You can have self-confidence. But you can be blindly conceited and drag us down to hell. We must be careful about this. Chu Yang said in a profound manner. Yes. The people of the O clan will probably arrive soon. Everyone get ready. Chu Yang issued an order. The bodies of the brothers floated up and flashed into the chill wind forest. Chu Yang picked up Imo Qingwu and also stepped inside. He felt that something was wrong after walking for some distance. Imo Qingwu seemed to be somewhat silent compared to usual. Qingwu, what's wrong with you? Chu Yang asked. Did you get scared a moment ago? No. Imo Qingwu pursed her lips and shook her head. She pouted her small mouth and didn't speak. Then, do you miss home? Chu Yang continued to probe. No. Imo Qingwu shook her head again. Chu Yang continued to make several guesses. But Imo Qingwu kept shaking her head. Finally, Imo Qingwu pouted her lips in an aggrieved manner. She then timidly said, Elder brother Chu Yang, little Wu is very useless, right? Useless? Chu Yang was startled. Why do you say this? Yes, but I always feel that. I've become a burden to elder brother Chu Yang. Imo Qingwu's small mouth flattened. She then said while weeping, I can only hide on one side and watch every time elder brother Chu Yang goes to fight. I can only watch whether you win or lose. I want to help you, elder brother Chu Yang. But I don't have the strength. Boo-hoo, Imo Qingwu sobbed as she spoke. She then sadly wiped her tears with the back of her small hand. I'm so useless. How can Qingwu be useless? Chu Yang said anxiously, with Qingwu by my side it's so useful. Elder brother Chu Yang's mood improved when he saw Qingwu after the fight. No matter when, as long as Qingwu is by my side I'll be happy. Qingwu's usefulness is something that no one can compare to. But my strength is so low. Imo Qingwu's mood improved a lot. Her voice lowered, but she was no longer flattening her lips. She's weak, but she can still practice. Moreover, Qingwu is still injured. After 10 or 20 days I'll find Duke Yu and get the materials from him. Then I'll be able to heal Xiao Wu's 3 yin meridians. Once little Wu's 3 yin meridian is healed, she can cultivate. Then she'll surpass elder brother Chu Yang in a few days. Chu Yang smiled and said, in the future, elder brother Chu Yang still hopes that Qingwu will protect me. Really? Little Luo widened her big teary eyes and looked at him. You're not lying to me, right? Of course not. Chu Yang vowed. Mo Qingwu believed him. She was in a good mood. She sat on Chu Yang's neck and twisted. She said happily, Humph, wait until my martial arts are good. I'll always protect elder brother Chu Yang. I won't let anyone bully me. She lowered her face and looked into Chu Yang's eyes. Her black hair fell on Chu Yang's neck. She blinked her eyes and said as if she was swearing, Elder brother Chu Yang, don't worry. I'll protect you for a lifetime. Protect me for a lifetime. Chu Yang was stunned. His imagination ran wild. For a lifetime, yes. For a lifetime. Mo Qingwu nodded vigorously and said firmly, That's great. Chu Yang laughed and said, I'll remember that Qingwu will protect me for a lifetime. Hee. Mo Qingwu happily laughed twice. Her two calves swung in front of his chest a few times. Then she tilted her head and imagined the scene of Chu Yang being protected by her. She couldn't help but giggle foolishly. Then she stopped talking. After a long time she asked anxiously, Elder brother Chu Yang, then, can I ask you a question? What question? Mo Qingwu smiled pitifully and said somewhat pleadingly, Inside your clothes, whose hair is that? She looked at Chu Yang's face a little guiltily and said softly, That day elder brother Chu Yang's face was really ugly. Chu Yang was speechless. He didn't expect this little girl to see it that day and hold it in for so long before asking now. Compared to this little girl, it was also very difficult for her to hold it in. But this question was really difficult to answer. It's... Chu Yang hesitated. Mo Qingwu asked sadly in a low voice, Is it sister-in-law Chu Yang's? No. No. Chu Yang's whole body trembled and he immediately denied it. Fuck. This little lass is imagining a sister-in-law out of thin air. Things are getting out of hand. So it's not. Mo Qingwu heaved a sigh of relief. She suddenly felt a little better. She also didn't know why, but she was happy to hear Chu Yang deny it. She actually hummed 2 lines of a song before asking again, Then, what about sister-in-law? Where did this sister-in-law come from? I don't have a sister-in-law. Chu Yang's breathing became heavy. Why did this little girl keep on using the word sister-in-law? No sister-in-law, that's great. The little girl rolled her eyes and suddenly said coquettishly, Elder brother Chu Yang, I remember back in the lower 3 heavens you said that you wanted me to be your fiancé. The little girl started to dig up old scores. And she actually pressed on very rhythmically. Chu Yang's eyes rolled back and he was weak. On the other side, Gu Du Xing and the rest were afraid that Chu Yang would hear them. They all held their breaths and covered their mouths with all their might. Their whole bodies were twitching. What are you saying? The little girl pouted unhappily and asked anxiously, Do you remember? Do you remember? I remember. Chu Yang said vaguely. He was sweating profusely. He had a feeling that Gu Du Xing and the others were not far from here. They could hear everything that was going on here. But now he was being interrogated by this little girl. Just think about it. Being interrogated by an 11-year-old girl about sensitive topics like fiancé and sister-in-law. And he had no choice but to brace himself. And there were many people eavesdropping around. Then do you admit it? Chu Yang did not give any details. The little girl was about to get angry. She grabbed elder brother Chu Yang's ear. Yes, of course. Chu Yang nodded repeatedly like a chick pecking rice. Humph, that means you don't have a sister-in-law? Mo Qingwu pouted triumphantly. The little girl had a habit. She liked to pout when she felt wronged. She would also pout when she was happy. But one of them had her head down while the other had her head up. The expression on her face was very different. Of course not. Chu Yang hurriedly said and wiped off his cold sweat. Then let me be the sister-in-law. Little Luo's face was red. She was so young but her eyes were like water. When she saw Chu Yang looking at her in shock, she actually let out a shy and feminine snort. Chapter 491. Ha ha ha. Jimo's body twisted as he rolled out, laughing. You're going to be the sister-in-law? Great, we're still waiting to call you sister-in-law? Dong Wushang also couldn't help laughing. Mo Qingwu looked at the 4 people who came out from the left and right, stunned. Suddenly, her face and ears turned red. She was extremely shy as she stammered, You, Luo Kadi pinched his nose and twisted his waist. Oh, I remember you said that you want me to be your future wife. Then I'll be the sister-in-law? You guys. Annoying. Mo Qingwu was instantly embarrassed. She suddenly lowered her head and pressed it against Chu Yang's back. Her little face was burning. Her 2 legs hung in front of Chu Yang's chest, kicking with all her strength. She wouldn't raise her head no matter what. It's okay. Chu Yang smiled as he comforted her. Mo Qingwu snorted. She was even more embarrassed. Ha ha ha. Gu Du Xing and the others were laughing wantonly. They were laughing so hard that they were spitting out rice. You guys are still laughing. Eavesdropping on others, you guys are still laughing. Mo Qingwu kicked her legs angrily. Her muffled voice came from Chu Yang's back. Cough cough, stop laughing. Chu Yang had no choice but to use his authority as the boss. What's so funny? But such a little girl actually wants to be our sister-in-law? GMO cried out. His whole body was twitching, almost cramping. After a long time, under Chu Yang's suppression, they finally stopped laughing one by one. It was just that they were all suppressing it, but their bodies were still trembling. It's okay, stop laughing. Chu Yang held back his laughter and patted Mo Qingwu's hand. Mo Qingwu carefully peeked out from Chu Yang's back. She saw a few twisted faces trying to hold back their laughter. She couldn't help but pout and say angrily, "Still say you're not laughing." She shrank back again. Chu Yang coaxed her for a long time before she finally calmed down. Her face was red as she lowered her head, looking helpless. Okay, they dare to laugh at you. When you really become my sister-in-law, you'll teach them a lesson. Chu Yang gave an empty promise. Yes. Mo Qingwu nodded vigorously. Then she pouted and said angrily, "You guys just wait and see." GMO grinned. He wanted to laugh again, but he was stopped by Gu Duxing. You're still laughing. You idiot. The enemy is coming. The people of the O clan had indeed arrived soon. The 3 Emperor-level experts and 30 King-level experts started to hasten on their journey as soon as they received the news. Moreover, a King-level expert was sent to chase after the 3 people of the Gu clan who had escaped. However, it wasn't easy to reach the chill wind forest for hundreds of kilometers. The experts of the O clan finally arrived at the chill wind forest when the sun shone brightly in the morning. They saw the region in front of them that was filled with evil spirits and monsters. So, everyone wrinkled their brows. What about old 8 and old 9? Where did he go? The second elder frowned. Along the way there was no news from the 8th elder and the 1st elder, which made everyone puzzled. The 3rd elder said, "It's possible that the 2 of them have already entered the chill wind forest. Something can have happened, right?" The 4th elder said in an uncertain manner. Haha. The 2nd elder calmly smiled and said, "Old 4th, do you think that 20 King-level experts can kill an Emperor-level expert? It's possible if 20 King-level experts go all out, and the Emperor-level experts fight to the death." The 4th elder was startled and said, "What about those 2? One of them is a 2nd-grade Emperor-level expert." A trace of disapproval flashed through the 2nd elder's eyes. "That's absolutely impossible," the 4th elder replied. "Then what are you still doubting?" The 2nd elder snorted. He then waved his hand and said, "Go in. There's a vast expanse of open ground outside the chill wind forest. There's nowhere to hide. Our people are monitoring that place. But they haven't sent any news. This means that those little bastards are still in the chill wind forest. There's no time to lose since this is the case. We'll kill our way in." "I believe that old 8th and old 4th are also waiting anxiously." He smiled cruelly and said, "Kill them as soon as you see them. Don't leave them alive. We're only responsible for bringing those things back." "Yes. Divide into 3 teams. You and I will lead 8 people each. We'll search in 3 directions. Let out a long whistle if you find anything." The 2nd elder made a prompt decision and said, "Advance in a fan-shaped manner. Then the distance between each team must not exceed 1,000 feet. And the distance between people must not exceed 100 feet. Yes. There's no time to lose. Let's move out immediately." The 2nd elder waved his hand. 27 people quietly entered the chill wind forest. There are traces of a fight here. They had just entered the forest when they had discovered something. Look at this. The fight must have been very fierce. There's a lot of bloodstains. This shows that the fight was extremely fast. The fight must have been settled in a very short time. The 2nd elder lowered his head and looked carefully. There's a sword fragment here. It's been cleaned up. But it can still be seen. He pinched his hand in the air and a fragment was sucked into his hand. He carefully looked at it and said, "This fragment has cloud patterns. Moreover, it's sparkling with light. This shows that this sword was mixed with star steel. Such a sword is of divine quality. So, how could it be broken? He was startled by his own words. Wasn't eighth brother's sword mixed with star steel? The third elder and the fourth elder's complexion changed as they thought of this. The three of them started to look around. And they slowly found a few small fragments. Their complexions became increasingly unsightly. These fragments are faintly exuding black smoke. This can only happen if they're mixed with nightmare steel. This is old brother's sword. The second elder's complexion became more and more dignified. Both of their swords were broken here. So, it shows that they were the ones who fought here. Then whose blood is this? The third elder's face was full of fear. Second brother had said that the fight should have been very short. But their swords were broken. So, the fourth elder spoke until here. He looked at the second elder and the third elder, and saw the shock in each other's eyes. There was only one possibility: someone had launched a surprise attack here. And the swords of the eighth elder and the fourth elder had been broken, and they had died. There's a trace here. Someone shouted. There's also a trace here. The three of them looked left and right. And their complexions sank like water. There were traces of a person who had stepped on the ground and borrowed the force to fly. And that was the kind of trace that could be left behind. This should have been a premeditated sneak attack judging from the location of the battlefield. It's not enough to attack these two sides. The strongest person on the opposite side must have attacked them head-on, and forced them to come back. Then the people on both sides would have had the opportunity to attack. And the person on the opposite side must have had a cultivation that wasn't weaker than those two. The second elder clenched his teeth and bitterly said, "In other words, there's an emperor-level expert on the opposite side in this chill wind forest. And he's lying in ambush. And eighth elder should have suffered a big loss. In fact, he might have already died." Everyone's complexion changed. "Let's go in first. Immediately warn us if you find the existence of this expert. The three of us must kill this bastard in one go. Otherwise, it's inevitable that we'll suffer heavy casualties today," the second elder said. "Why should we split up since the opposite side has such a person?" The fourth elder asked. "Why don't we go in together?" "Idiot. Why would the opposite side launch a sneak attack if they had the strength to kill us in one fell swoop? This shows that they can only deal with one or two people even if they launch a sneak attack. So their assurance isn't big either. Do you think that they'll dare to come out if the three of us are together?" The second elder said in a resentful tone. "We must lure them out first." "So that's how it is," the fourth elder nodded. Then the three teams entered the chill wind forest in accordance with their prior agreement, and slowly moved forward. Everyone was very cautious now. They had completely lost the confidence they had had when they had first arrived. Even a team composed of such experts felt somewhat jittery at the slightest sound. "They've come in," the sword spirit said in Chu Yang's mind. "How many people?" Chu Yang asked in his mind. 27 people. 1/3 grade emperor-level expert, 2 second-grade emperor-level experts, 7 king-level experts, and the rest are between 4th and 5th grade king-level experts. They're divided into 3 teams. Each team is led by an emperor-level expert. The leftmost team is a bit stronger, the sword spirit cautiously calculated. The sword spirit suddenly felt somewhat aggrieved as he said this. "Emperor-level expert? Motherfucker, when did I start calling this bunch of trash emperor? The O clan is really willing to spend a lot of money, ah." Chu Yang sneered in his heart. "It can be said that they've dispatched such a big force to deal with us. The misleading formation at the entrance should have aroused their vigilance. They should have thought that there's an expert inside. Therefore they won't dare to come in so arrogantly. They're being very cautious," the sword spirit said in a somewhat amused manner. "Well, our odds of success are very big as long as they don't swarm us without any scruples." Chu Yang nodded and exposed a sinister smile on his face. "How's the preparation?" Chu Yang turned his head and asked. "Almost done." Gu Du Xing seemed to have asked something. Then he replied, "Only Luo Kudi's trap isn't ready yet. But it'll be ready soon." "Good," Chu Yang said in a low voice. "They've already come in." Gu Du Xing nodded and silently retreated. On the other side, Dong Wushang and GMO looked at each other from afar. They could only see each other's flickering eyes in this dense and gloomy place. The murderous intention in their hearts was blazing. The O clan is purely using the method of encirclement to deal with us this time. But they won't be able to imagine that the prey in their eyes has turned into the hunter. And they themselves have become the real prey. And they're moving towards the carefully arranged trap of the hunter. Chapter 492. This is a dusky forest. The reason why it is called the Chill Wind Forest is because there are two big mountains on the left and the right. These mountains block the flow of wind from the east and the west. And there is a mountain pass in front of us. The mountain pass is very narrow. So, even a very small wind will make a very loud sound when it blows through this mountain pass. And the most amazing thing about this forest is that there is a towering ironwood forest from the mountain pass to here. The sound of the wind passing through this ironwood forest changes into the wailing of ghosts and howling of wolves as the sharp branches of the ironwood forest rustled in the wind. And someone must have taken advantage of this natural condition to draw underground water from the ground of this forest. Moreover, it's a hot spring. And the water vapor evaporates. But it can't disperse. So, it can only be digested in this forest. And this dense forest has been formed over the years. And the formation is playing a decisive role in this. Chu Yang had said this when he had been arranging the strategy. His words were even more detailed than those of the original residents of the 3 days. Baidu search network high quality update ***. This had made Gu Duxing and the others somewhat embarrassed. They also found it somewhat unimaginable. Big Brother has just arrived. So, how can he be more clear about these places than I am? And these are our advantageous conditions. Even if these conditions are disadvantageous to us, they can be advantageous as long as we make good use of them. Because what's disadvantageous to us is also disadvantageous to the enemy. We must remember these words under any circumstances. Chu Yang insipidly said. He was using all the time he had to instill all the theories he knew into his brothers. Many of these theories were commonplace. But Chu Yang still had to say them. And Gu Duxing and the others were also listening very seriously. Because some words spoken by family members and teachers were far less useful than those spoken by trusted people. This was a common psychological state of people. For example, one would have regretted not having enough knowledge when they were very young. But it would have been decades later. And they would have experienced setbacks. Then they would have heard these words from other people's mouths. And their hearts would have been touched at that moment. Then they would have realized the true meaning of these words, but it would have been decades too late by that time. The most effective way to deal with the people of the O clan in such an environment is to ambush and use poison. Chu Yang calmly said, at present the traps we've arranged are... Wait. GMO raised his hand. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he asked, use poison? Using poison against the O clan? Boss, what do you think? They are experts in using poisons. Well, the O clan wouldn't have thought of it since even you couldn't think of it. Chu Yang sneered. They've been famous for their poison for a long time. They've always been conceited. Therefore, if others use poison to deal with them, they'll be more defenseless than ordinary people. It's just that, what kind of poison can prevent them from discovering it? That's something worth pondering over. Gu Duxing's eyes lit up. He increasingly felt that Chu Yang's every step wasn't too brilliant, but he was walking in a blind spot that no one would have thought of. Just this point alone was enough to put him in an invincible position. Perhaps, no one had thought of using poison to deal with the O clan in the past 3 days. However, he was constantly pondering in his heart. What poison should I use to deal with the O clan? Using ordinary poisons would only be a joke. It had to be a poison that they couldn't detect. Furthermore, it had to be done in an ingenious manner. There's still 700 to 800 pounds of the poisonous flood dragon's meat left. Sword Spirit said in his mind, I can refine the poison, but this poison is too overbearing. I'm afraid that the poison part of this place will become a poisonous area for a long time once it's used. It's hard to avoid harming innocent people. Chu Yang's eyes lit up as he said, this isn't a problem. I can smear it on my sword and saber. It's only limited to these 2 parts. I just need to clean them up after killing the enemy. However, some of the original traps will be wasted in this way. It's a pity. Let's do it this way. We'll still use the traps. But we'll set up a warning sign in the poisonous area after we use it. This will warn the future people that this place is poisonous. Sword Spirit remained silent for a moment. Then he said, this decision is up to you. The 3 heavens are a big Jianghu. How many people are innocent in Jianghu? Anyone who can enter the Chill Wind Forest isn't a good person. There's nothing wrong with killing them. Chu Yang nodded and said, since that's the case, it's settled then. Chu Yang didn't feel anything about this. It was just as Sword Spirit had said, how many people were innocent in Jianghu? The weak were prey to the strong in the 3 heavens. Which of the people who could come here didn't have a blood debt? Chu Yang had always been decisive when it came to killing. So he promptly made a decision. At this time, a message came that Luo Kudi was ready. Sword Spirit promptly reminded him that the O clan's people weren't far away. Chu Yang immediately arranged, "GMO. Let's start." GMO let out a strange cry, "Don't worry, a wood dog ant." Everyone laughed. The O clan's people spread out in a big circle. The three elders were in the middle of their respective teams. They formed a big arc and slowly advanced inside. The more they went inside, the more gloomy and damp they felt. It was broad daylight. But the clouds and mist were curling up. So their line of sight was extremely unclear. Their eyes were useless even if they were 20 or 30 feet away from them. Therefore everyone was on high alert. They didn't dare to be careless. They had been going inside for half an hour. Suddenly, a faint sound of fighting was heard from afar. "Are there people fighting here?" The second elder and the others were startled. They quickly went towards the place where the sound was coming from. The more they went forward, the more they felt that the fight was intense. The second elder raised his white eyebrows and said in a deep and low voice, "Many people are besieging one person." The others looked at each other. Then they went forward even more cautiously. "Who's fighting? Is it the person we're chasing to kill? It would be great if that's the case." A faint sound of cursing was heard. "Kill this monster. Quickly. The O clan's people will soon catch up with us. Everyone, let's attack together. Shoulder to shoulder." The second elder smiled as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. His eyes exposed a cruel, murderous intention. "Juniors, we've finally caught up with you. But who's fighting with them?" Suddenly, a burst of angry and anxious mumbling sound was heard. It seemed that the speaker was extremely angry. However, he was also extremely sullen. What's he talking about?" An expert of the O clan tilted his ears in puzzlement. But he couldn't hear anything clearly. He wasn't the only one. All the people of the O clan were also confused. They couldn't hear what was being said. Well, they couldn't understand what was being said. After taking a few more steps, he suddenly heard the sound of metal clashing. A strange voice filled with extreme anger could be faintly heard. "Dog of dog. Pitter-patter. Sister-in-law's hometown. Wa dog ant." The second elder looked around in confusion, and found that everyone had a confused look on their faces. Could it be that he's cursing someone? An expert of the O clan cautiously guessed. Listening to his tone, it's definitely not something good. Another person frowned and said, "But what is he talking about? How come I've never heard anyone talk like that before?" At this moment, there was another explosion and the voice was filled with rage. "Sister-in-law, you're from the same hometown. Waste oil and rice, woolly woolly woola woola howl? Whip gulamami oiny big wind monkey. Wa dog ant. Wa dog ant." His words are very strange. An expert of the O clan scratched his head. "I can't understand a word of it." The other expert also had a depressed look on his face. His eyes were wide open like a duck listening to thunder. The second elder, the third elder, and the fourth elder were experienced and knowledgeable. But they also couldn't understand a word of it. However, they heard the voice of this person become more and more hurried. And the fight also became more and more intense. Suddenly, a scream was heard. "Sister-in-law, you're from the same hometown. Dog ant." Then, a mumbling sound of cursing was heard. Then another scream was heard. The situation of the fight seemed to have shifted to the left. It seemed that the person was trying to break out of the encirclement. But it then shifted to the right. "This person is injured," the second elder said with certainty. The second elder is very wise. He's able to accurately judge the situation of the fight by relying on such a small clue. He's truly a godlike person. An expert on the side said with a face full of admiration. The second elder stroked his beard and nodded cheerfully. Everyone looked at that guy with contempt. "Motherfucker. This guy is screaming so miserably. He must have been injured. Anyone with a bit of brain would know that. How is this wise? If you were in his place, would you scream so miserably in your normal state? Even if you want to flatter someone, you can't do it like this. It's truly disdainful. Surround him. Don't make any noise." The second elder made a prompt decision, and waved his hand to order. His voice hadn't faded away when the fourth elder's people had already started to surround him. They had just flown over and hadn't had time to attack when they saw the thick fog in front of them shake. Then a person's figure fell out in a sorry state. He flew hundreds of feet high in the air and fell to the ground. Then he stood up like a carp but fell down again. He was cursing loudly. Way, sister-in-law, you're from the same hometown. Wah, dog ant, Everyone saw this and couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. They saw that this person's body was thin, and his stature wasn't tall. But he had a strange appearance. His hair had 5 colors and there was a strange horn in the middle of his hair. His nose was rolled up and one of his eyes was red and the other was blue. The flesh on his body was overturned, and it was too horrible to look at. Blood was flowing out from countless places. The strangest and most surprising thing was that the blood flowing out of this guy's body was sparkling like stars. Moreover, there was a golden star mark on his forehead. It was very eye-catching. He's from the Star Clan of the 3 Stars Divine Clan. The second elder was worthy of being called experienced and knowledgeable. He had recognized him from afar. Everyone exclaimed in admiration. The second elder is erudite and knowledgeable. However, the second elder couldn't help but be full of doubts. No wonder we couldn't understand what he was saying. He's from the Star Clan of the 3 Stars Divine Clan. But why are the people of the 3 Stars Divine Clan here? That strange man was lying on the ground. He raised his head and saw that so many people had surrounded him. His eyes emitted a panic-stricken light and he kept crawling backwards. He said in a sorry state, "Dog aunt. Sister-in-law, you're from the same hometown. Sister-in-law, you're from the same hometown. Sister-in-law, you're from the same hometown. Damn, I'm sick of it. Dog aunt." Chapter 493. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. This is the dialect of the 3 Stars Divine Clan. Who can understand it? They were about to speak when they saw the miserable appearance of this guy. But they heard a burst of movement in the dense fog. "Everyone run! The people of the O clan have arrived." Swish, 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 swish. The second elder and the third elder angrily rebuked and chased after them. But there was nothing left. They only saw a big bloodstain on the ground. Baidu Search Network High Quality Update ***. Who are you? Are you from the 3 Stars Divine Clan? Are you? The fourth elder frowned as he looked at this strange guy who had fallen on the ground. He wanted to go forward and touch him. How can this guy grow into such a strange shape? Even if he's from the 3 Stars Divine Clan, he looks a bit shabby. Wow. Are you tired of it? Wow. Are you tired of it? Dog aunt. Dog aunt. This guy screamed in horror. It was obvious that the elders couldn't understand what he was saying. But he couldn't understand what the elders were saying either. The duck listens to thunder and the fog is evil. The fourth elder and the few people beside him looked at each other in dismay. There's a language barrier. What should we do? They listened to this guy screaming himself hoarse in fright. But they couldn't get anything out of him. Then a king-level expert of the O clan volunteered to come forward. This guy had a younger brother who was mute. It was said that he was very good at making gestures. Everyone felt relieved. How could we forget about this? Now the interpreter has arrived. This king-level expert walked in front of this monster, and made a posture of beating him up. Then he made an injured appearance. He then pointed in the direction where Chu Yang and the others had fled and asked, "Huh?" The eyes of this monster of the 3 Stars Divine Clan suddenly lit up. He stood up and made a posture of beating someone up. Then he made a posture of sneak attack. He then said with infinite indignation, "Ah, wow. Are you tired of it? Oh, dog aunt." That expert nodded in affirmation. He made a sympathetic and understanding expression. Then he made an angry gesture and made a posture of chasing and attacking. He patted his chest and asked with a posture of courage, "Huh? You mean, I'll help you take revenge? Is that okay?" This 3 Stars Divine Clan monster spirit was immediately roused. He drew a circle with his hand, encircling all the people in front of him. He drew a large area and then, with one foot in front and the other behind, he hopped 2 steps on the spot in a chasing posture. He then asked in high spirits, "Wow, are you tired of it?" Wow. That expert of the O clan nodded in affirmation. He thought to himself, this is great. With this guy leading the way, we can immediately find Chu Yang's group. Awu dog aunt. This monster of the 3 Stars Divine Clan immediately jumped up in excitement. But then, he groaned and looked at the wounds on his body with a distressed expression. He raised his head to look at the fourth elder and the others. Then he spread out his hands. His facial features squeezed together in pain. Wow, dog aunt? What he means is that he's in a lot of pain and has no strength left. This expert of the O clan looked at the fourth elder in a very clear manner. He then confidently translated, This wow means pain in the 3 stars divine clan's language. The 4th elder looked at this guy's tattered body and wrinkled his brows. I didn't bring much medicine with me. And I reckon that this guy will use up more than half of it. Do I have to waste it on him? That monster of the 3 stars divine clan started to tremble while he was hesitating. He then cried out in despair, wow, 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 wow. Then he slowly fell to the ground, and his hands and feet began to twitch. Treat his injuries. The 4th elder looked at him in disgust and shouted. Therefore everyone stepped forward and applied medicine to the wounds on this guy's body. This guy was crying wow and wow. His face was wrinkled and his hands were restless. He politely shook hands with everyone who came to apply medicine to him. He would cry wow and wow if one didn't shake hands with him. The 4 king-level experts had no choice but to pinch their noses and shake hands with him. Then the king-level expert who acted as a translator mobilized his spirit power and treated his internal injuries. Only then did he stand up. With a bitter expression on his face, he wailed twice and rummaged around in his armpit. It seemed that he had fished out a black pill. Then he tossed it into his mouth and chewed it twice with a smacking sound. Everyone who saw this scene couldn't help but feel disgusted. How did this guy rub the dirt from his body? Or did he take medicine? I've never seen such a disgusting thing. The 3 stars divine clan is indeed the 3 stars divine clan. I've seen this fucking thing. Everyone cursed in their hearts. They tried their best not to vomit. However, the next scene left everyone gobsmacked. They saw that the terrifying wounds on this monster's body suddenly healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. The wounds closed and formed scars in a short while. Then they saw that this guy stretched out his hand and stroked them. And the scars fell off. He moved his arms and legs and could move freely. Everyone's eyeballs fell to the ground. Is there such a miraculous medicine in this world? They suddenly felt that they had been fooled. Why would you use our medicine if you have such a good medicine? Wow, dog auntie. You're a beautiful coquettish dog. This strange man looked at his own body and nodded in satisfaction. Then he looked at everyone with a disdainful look in his eyes. The meaning behind his words was, your medicine is too inferior. Everyone almost fainted. Fuck. We've been despised by a monster of the 3 stars divine clan? The 4th elder's eyes lit up. If we can get the formula of this miraculous medicine after this matter is over, then wouldn't the O clan's world-defying heavens soar to meteoric success? This is an opportunity given to our O clan by the heavens. The strange man turned around impatiently and made a gesture with his hands, indicating that he was going to chase after them. Then he made a gesture with his hands, indicating that he was going to put them into his pocket. Then he made a gesture with his hands, indicating that he was going to put them into his pocket. He had an anxious look on his face. It seemed as if he would get caught if he was late. Well, he said that there's a treasure over there. He's fighting with them for that treasure. It's a very important treasure. So he'll be taken away if he's late. The king-level expert who had been acting as a translator was very smart. He clearly explained the movements of this monster's limbs. A good thing that this monster is so anxious about. Everyone's eyes lit up. So they urged him to move forward. This monster was very familiar with the way. He passed through the dense fog as if it were his own home. He then hurriedly rushed in a direction. The people of the 4th elder followed closely behind him. The people of the 3rd elder outflanked him from another direction. The people of the 2nd elder were slightly behind him. They were taking the aerial route. They were jumping over trees one by one. Everyone held their breaths tightly. A 3-pronged attack from 3 directions. We must not give these guys the opportunity to escape again. The 4th elder and the others suddenly felt their legs go soft as they walked. Looking down, all he could see was a patch of land that was half swampy. The soles of their shoes were wet. That strange man was still leading the way. His feet were splashing mud everywhere as he stepped on them. The 4th elder waved his hand, speed up. Everyone obeyed the order and chased after him. Their feet slowly became softer. And more water stains appeared. Eventually the mud covered their feet. Many water stains had splashed on their calves. After walking for a while, everyone's legs were dripping with mud. Even their skin was stained with it. Only the boots of the 4th elder were not stained on his body. But the other 8 people were not spared. The last king-level expert felt a little itchy on his calf. He couldn't help but bend down and scratch it a few times. But he didn't expect that he would scratch a big piece of flesh off his calf. And his pale bones were exposed. He didn't feel any pain at all. Moreover, the 5 fingers on his right hand had also turned into white bones after he scratched his hand. His flesh and blood fell down neatly. This king-level expert had just shaken hands with this monster of the 3 Stars Divine Clan. He looked at his hands and feet in extreme fear. He suddenly felt extremely frightened. In fact, he didn't even dare to breathe. Water has such a terrible poison. What's going on? Whoa. The king-level expert was stunned for a while. He then asked while crying. But the 3 Stars Divine Clan's monster who was leading the way suddenly looked in a certain direction. Then he let out a loud cry of extreme alarm the moment he asked this question. This voice was mournful. In fact, it seemed as if a ghost had appeared in front of him. The 4th elder rushed forward to take a look. He saw that there was a newly dug big hole under a big tree in front of him. And that monster was pointing at this big hole. He was crazily screaming. His face was mournful and his voice was miserable. Whoa, 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 whoa. The monster turned his head and shouted at the 4th elder. The 4th elder was confused. He asked, "Is it here?" He pointed at the big hole. The monster nodded repeatedly. He pointed at the 4th elder and shouted, "Boo-hoo! Whoa, 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 whoa." The 4th elder wrinkled his brows. The last king-level expert finally came back to his senses. He loudly shouted, "4th elder?" Then he flew up and pounced over. The 4th elder instinctively turned his head. Suddenly that monster crazily raised a big pile of muddy water from under his feet. It was like a screen that connected the sky. It splashed on everyone's body. The 4th elder's face and neck were also stained with a lot of mud. He couldn't open his eyes. The 4th elder was caught off guard. He angrily turned his head and shouted, "Bastard! You want to do?" However, his soul suddenly flew out of his body. He saw a bright beam of light suddenly appear in front of him. This monster of the 3 Stars Divine Clan had fiercely brandished his sword, and was rushing towards him. The 4th elder's eyes were still covered by the muddy water. He hastily retreated with all his might. The long sword in his hand also burst out with a brilliant sword flower. He then counterattacked and blocked the attack. He was confident that he would be able to block any kind of attack. Chapter 494. The figure of this strange man shook as he laughed out loud. He fell down from the big tree and disappeared in the fog with a schwa sound. This 3 Stars Divine Clan was the 2nd Master GMO in disguise. Sure enough, the attack was successful. Baidu Search Network's high-quality update ***. The 4th elder was furious. He was about to chase and attack when he suddenly saw his subordinates looking at their feet in horror. The 4th elder looked down and couldn't help but shout loudly. He then spouted out a mouthful of blood. He saw that his subordinates were standing there like wooden chickens. Their faces were full of despair. The few people who had held hands with that monster were in an even more miserable state. Their hands had turned into bones. The few people who had lifted up their pants to look screamed even more miserably. Only the bones of their calves were left to support them. Not a single trace of blood or flesh could be seen. Furthermore, there was a black color that was silently spreading upwards. Wherever it reached, the flesh there would start to rot silently. Moreover, they couldn't feel anything from this rot. What kind of poison is this? The 4th elder took out a handful of detoxification pills in a flurry, and stuffed them all into his mouth. It could be said that the O clan's detoxification pills were the best in the world. But he couldn't feel anything even after taking so many pills. The 4th elder lowered his head to look at his legs. But he discovered that his eyes couldn't see anything after he lowered his head. He stretched out his hand in horror and touched his face. But a large piece of flesh fell off and he couldn't even feel the bones. 4th elder. 4th elder. The anxious voices of the 2nd elder and the 3rd elder came from afar. They had clearly discovered the situation here, and were rushing over with all their might. "Don't come over." The 4th elder exhausted the last of his strength and loudly shouted. His voice was sobbing, "The water here is poisoned. We'll lose our lives if we touch it. We're done for. Don't come over. Don't come over." He had become hoarse by the time he had spoken the last sentence. Then he spat out his tongue with a puff sound. His throat issued an extremely sullen muffled groan, and he fell to the ground while facing upwards. The surrounding 8 people scattered in all directions in fear, as if they would be saved if they left this place. However, each of them only managed to run 4 or 5 steps before their legs were so rotten that they could no longer support their bodies. With a splash they fell into the water. When the second elder heard the commotion, he had already flown over. When the fourth elder shouted, he had already begun to fall down. But when he heard the warning, he immediately grabbed a branch and hung his entire body in the air. With a cracking sound, the tree branch broke. He had already used his weak strength to climb up the tree. The third elder also led his people to join the second elder's people. The 18 people were dumbfounded as they watched the fourth elder and the others rolling in the muddy water. Then they slowly rotted. They couldn't even make a sound. They slowly wriggled and twisted into white skeletons. In the end, even the white skeletons gradually melted and rotted, returning to the original swamp. A few bubbles appeared on the surface of the swamp, and after a moment of turbulence, a cloud of mist rose up and merged with the dense fog above, restoring the swamp to its original state. It seemed as if nothing had happened here. Even a godly scout wouldn't be able to see that a human life had been swallowed in this tranquil swamp. Moreover, it was the life of an expert. 1 emperor-level expert and 8 king-level experts. The second elder, the third elder, and the others were in a daze as they watched their brothers die. They had turned into corpses and had turned into swamp water. However, they were dumbstruck and at a loss of what to do. Their hearts were in extreme pain. However, they couldn't do anything about it. The third elder looked at this swamp in a daze. His lips squirmed as he nervously said, "Old man, what kind of poison is this?" "Fourth brother, what is this?" The second elder looked up to the sky and let out a long and loud howl. Then he let out a heart-wrenching and blood-sobbing roar, "Shu Yang, Gudu Xing. You little dogs, this old man swears to the heaven and earth. I swear that I won't be a man if I don't tear you to pieces." Several sneers seemed to be heard from the distant dense fog. "Chase after them." The second elder's face was filled with murderous aura. He was mad with anger. "You can use poison. But can't our O Bing clan use poison?" Everyone became even more cautious as they chased after them. Everyone was carrying a few small animals in their hands. They would throw one animal over to check if there were water stains or swamps. Then they would hurry on with their journey depending on the situation. The big trees in the surroundings were out of luck. Their branches were broken off one by one. They were thrown on the water's surface and stepped on to fly away. They were extremely cautious. But nothing had happened. However, nothing unexpected had happened along the way. They searched for a while. They felt that the ground under their feet was getting softer and softer. It had turned out to be half swamp-like ground. They lowered their heads and saw that there was a faint flow of water. The second elder took a deep breath. He threw out a snake first. Everyone felt relieved when they saw that snake swimming in this swamp in a panic. The second elder wrinkled his brows. He suddenly thought of a wonderful idea. He took a deep breath. Suddenly his whole body emitted black smoke. He slowly stretched out his hands as if he was holding a baby. The black smoke rose from his palms. Then it suddenly disappeared. He then pressed his palms on his dantian. A layer of snow-white area was visible to the naked eye. It started to extend from the feet of the second elder. It started to spread rapidly as it came in contact with the water stains on the ground. In fact, it looked like a snow-white layer of salt frost had spread on the ground at a very fast speed. Every place that it came in contact with had turned into a frosty white color. The frosty white quickly spread up the tree even if it came in contact with it. And the entire tree had turned snow white in an instant. And this strange white color was still rapidly extending inwards. A few water snakes rushed out of the swamp. But they twisted twice as they fell into the range of this white frost. Then their bodies stiffened and became motionless. The ants and insects along the way were poisoned to death. Even some birds on the trees fell down with a bang sound. The entire chill wind forest had suddenly turned into a death zone. Poison evil divine technique. This was the O clan's secret technique. Every member of the O clan had this technique. However, the second elder was already an expert if he had practiced to such a level. Chu Yang and the others would undoubtedly die if they came in contact with this white fog. The second elder had absolute confidence in himself. I haven't heard of anyone who has been able to break this poison evil divine technique of the O clan in the past 3 days. Using poison to counter poison. You've poisoned my brothers. So I'll poison you to death. The range of the poison evil divine technique was getting bigger and bigger as the second elder strode forward. It was getting denser and more extensive. More and more small creatures were dying. In fact, they were even floating on the water's surface. The eyes of the other experts of the O clan lit up as they saw this. This method is good. It saves us the time to be on guard. Moreover, it can kill the enemy directly. Therefore they all followed suit. Therefore the range of the white frost continued to spread. 18 people launched the poison evil divine technique in a short time. And the range of the poison evil divine technique had expanded to several thousand feet in a short time. They slowly moved forward in this manner. They would be safe as long as they saw earthworms and the like coming out of the ground after the poison evil divine technique had passed. Therefore the speed of everyone on the ground had increased a lot. Big brother, what should we do? Luo Kudi nervously asked from afar. Many of the traps that Chu Yang had set up had lost their effectiveness due to this kind of advance. Chu Yang frowned as he pondered bitterly. However, he realized that he didn't have any good method to deal with the enemy's battle formation after a long time. All the traps would be detected as long as the enemy's poison evil divine technique passed through them. So, how could he take advantage of this situation? Chu Yang's eyes suddenly lit up as he looked at the poisonous fog that was advancing like a forest of salt frost. He turned his head and said, "Let's have a decisive battle since this is the case. But, we must do this and this." GMO Luo Kudi and Dong Wushang came over with a wave of his hand. They listened to Chu Yang's words in a low voice. "So and so, but the four of you must go all out when the time comes. You must entangle one of the two emperor-level experts. Do you understand?" Chu Yang's voice was very cold and gloomy. He clenched his teeth and a sinister look appeared in his eyes. Gu Du Xing, Dong Wushang, and the other three slowly nodded with heavy expressions on their faces. Dong Wushang asked after a long time, "Big brother, can you do it alone?" Chu Yang clenched his teeth and said, "I have a 40% chance of success as long as I operate well." 40% chance of success. Dong Wushang and Gu Du Xing looked at each other. Their expressions slowly turned. They said, "Good. King-level experts have a 10% chance of dealing with Emperor-level experts. Let alone 40%. The two of them didn't hesitate. Gu Du Xing immediately turned around and gave instructions to the experts of the Gu clan. Suddenly the atmosphere became unprecedentedly tense. The second elder and the others spared no effort in urging their poison techniques. They slowly searched the entire chill wind forest. But they didn't find anything. They had already arrived at the heart of the chill wind forest. "I don't believe that you can grow wings and fly away." The second elder clenched his teeth in anger. "Continue." He hadn't finished speaking when they suddenly heard the sound of a heavy object falling down in front of them. It fell into the swamp with a bang sound. This caused a burst of dense moisture. Listening to this sound, one could tell that a human body had fallen to the ground. The second elder's eyes lit up. He hastily said in a low voice, "Let's go over and take a look. Be careful." The third elder agreed and walked over to the side. More than a dozen people surrounded him from behind. "Big brother, first launch your domain to protect your whole body. Everyone else, don't stop releasing your poison techniques." The second elder hastily reminded him. Then he launched his own domain as he spoke. A layer of completely transparent spirit energy violently gushed out of his body, and formed a transparent spirit energy shield around his body. Even the dense fog inside the spirit energy shield obeyed his command, and gathered to one side. "Yes." The third elder also launched his domain. But his complexion was sad. He sighed and said, "Big Brother 8 hasn't comprehended the power of the domain since the beginning. Big Brother 4 has comprehended it. But he hasn't had the opportunity to use it until now." The second elder's face twitched in pain. He then said, "Let's go." He took the lead and walked out. Some people were already flying as the poison technique spread. But they fell down halfway and heavily fell into the swamp. They should be Chu Yang and the others judging from their clothes. They walked for more than 100 feet and saw a particularly dense forest in front of them. However, the poisonous fog had already corroded the forest. And all the trees had turned white. More than a dozen people were lying down under the trees. Some of them were constantly struggling. Some of them were barely standing up. But their complexions had turned blue, and they were drooling from the corners of their mouths. Chapter 495. "You bastards! Give me back my fourth brother's life." The third elder was somewhat agitated. He roared and was about to pounce forward. "Wait! Be careful of a trap." The second elder reached out and grabbed him. His eyes were bright as he looked at the scene. He waved his hand and a flash of lightning whizzed out. It was a dagger. It was aimed at Gu Du Xing, who was at the front. The target was Gu Du Xing's chest. Obviously, he wanted to kill someone first to confirm it. After all, they were faced with a life and death crisis. Even if they had a trap, they would still take action. At that time, they would be able to see if they had set a trap again. Gu Duxing's eyes turned cold as he showed a determined look. This dagger was not fast. He could have caught it with his hand. As for dodging, it would have been even easier. But as long as he dodged it, it would prove that these people were pretending. At that time, they would have been completely wiped out. He looked at his brothers with reluctance. His body twisted with difficulty. It seemed that he could not dodge it anymore. Gu Duxing had decided to sacrifice himself for this mission and the lives of his brothers. The dagger light whizzed over. "Young lord." A mournful cry was heard. Suddenly, a person beside Gu Duxing fiercely jumped up. He staggered and pushed Gu Duxing to one side. His movements were so slow that it seemed that he could not dodge it anymore. He used his chest to meet the dagger. Boom. Blood splattered everywhere. The dagger was deeply inserted into the chest of this king-level expert. His face twitched in pain. Then his body stiffened and he slowly fell down. Blood flowed out of the corners of his mouth. He had stopped breathing. "Uncle Wang!" Gu Duxing shouted. His eyes suddenly opened wide. He was indescribably sorrowful. However, when the second elder and the others saw this scene, they laughed heartily. Clearly, these people had really been poisoned. Otherwise, they would have been able to dodge such a slow dagger. Not to mention they would have lost the life of a king-level master. "Catch them and bring them here. I want all of them alive." The second elder said ferociously, "I want to torture them to death one by one. I want to take revenge for Old 4 and Old 8. With a command, the 10 experts behind him took a step forward at the same time. Like wolves and tigers, they rushed towards the people in front of the field who no longer had the power to resist. The third elder had rushed to the front. His movements were the fastest. He grabbed Chu Yang and tied him up. He then said with an evil grin, "King of Hell Chu, you've also fallen into this old man's hands." Chu Yang looked at him weakly and said with a bitter smile, "Using poison to plot against me, what kind of ability is that?" "Bullshit. Just now you used poison to plot against my fourth brother. Is that honorable?" The third elder angrily cursed and shouted, "Take them all away." The 10 king-level experts received the order and grabbed one person each. Some of them even fiercely shoved them. After retrieving the weapons, Zhang Xian felt more at ease. He grabbed it and walked back. "Why is there one person missing?" The second elder looked from afar and frowned. "Including the dead one, we are still missing a little girl. Where is that little girl?" An unforeseen event suddenly happened while he was in doubt. The captives that the 10 king-level experts were holding in their hands were half dead. But they suddenly moved one after another. Their fists and palms shot out at the nearest distance, and fiercely struck the vital points of the king-level experts who were holding them in high spirits. They attacked their chests, heads, lower body, and dantians. Moreover, they kept attacking. Countless punches and kicks fell on the bodies of these people. Suddenly, a burst of intense sword light erupted from the bosom of the third elder. The sword light was so sharp and overbearing that it caught the third elder off guard even though he had already activated his domain. The sword light shot out like thousands of cold rays of sunlight. Then it unceasingly pierced the domain with a puff sound. Then it gathered into a bunch and crazily rammed into the domain. It broke a hole in the domain's spirit energy shield with a bang sound. Then it crazily released a violent storm of attacks. Blood-curdling screams were heard from that side. The 10 king-level experts of the O clan had been beaten into a pile of mud in the blink of an eye. Gu Duxing and the others didn't utter a word after they had launched their attacks. They snatched their weapons without any hesitation. Then, the four brothers merged their bodies with their swords, and rushed towards the second elder with thunderous roars. Another king-level expert of the Gu clan shouted loudly, and snatched his weapon. Then he faced the remaining king-level experts of the O clan. It was a one-on-one fight. The killing began in an instant. The bodies of the 10 king-level experts softly fell to the ground at this time. Some of them were already dead. Some of them weren't dead. But they were on their last breath. They had been attacked by experts of the same level in their bosom. And they had been laughing all the time. So they hadn't been able to guard against it. The second elder didn't get enough time to warn them. But an unforeseen event had already happened. He couldn't help but stare in anger. He furiously roared and saw 3 sword lights and a tyrannical saber light cover his body. He furiously roared and his face was filled with murderous intention. "Good juniors. This old man will tear you apart alive." He flicked his wrist and the sword light flashed. Then he angrily rushed forward. The 5 people crazily fought in a group in an instant. Chu Yang had already become ruthless on that side. The first 12 sword moves of the Calamity Sword were launched at the same time. Then, the 4 sword moves that he had created were launched at the same time. He didn't even look at the state of the third elder in front of him. He just kept his head down and unleashed the strongest attack he could muster. The third elder's scream shook the clouds. He was also caught off guard. The only thing that made him stronger than the others was that he had activated his protective domain. However, such a domain couldn't withstand a single blow from the Calamity Sword. It had been broken by the second move. But it had also won him some time to retreat at a fast speed. However, Chu Yang's attacks followed closely behind. They were getting faster and fiercer. The third elder suddenly had a feeling, I'm standing in front of the sea. And I'm facing the rising tide of the sea. Or, I'm standing at the bottom of a cliff. But a landslide has suddenly occurred. Moreover, the landslide is accompanied by a flash flood. The third elder was in for a tragedy. He desperately pulled out his sword to block, but after blocking twice, he found that his sword had already been shattered into pieces by the opponent's sword. Then he felt pain in his palm, chest, back and eyes. He roared. His heart beat wildly. He cursed. He trembled and twisted under the sword light. Then, with a boom, he turned into minced meat under the dazzling sword light. At this time, Chu Yang had only launched the 7th move of the Calamity Sword. However, he could no longer stop. He actually continuously attacked the air that was filled with flesh and blood, and madly attacked with another 7 moves. In the blink of an eye, sword energy soared into the sky in this narrow area, moving unhindered. He finally finished and withdrew his sword. However, there was only a bloody mist in front of him. He couldn't even see a strand of the third elder's hair. The attacks were too concentrated. Chu Yang didn't hesitate. He immediately took out an incomplete version of the heavy pill, and stuffed it into his mouth. He circulated it to restore his strength. Then he launched an attack on his sword without stopping. He went straight to Gudu Xing and the others. On the other side, the 4 king-level experts were crazily attacking their opponents. They all had the same thought in their hearts, even if I die, I won't let them rescue the second elder. Gudu Xing and the others were in imminent danger. The second elder was a third-grade emperor-level expert. So, how could Gudu Xing and the other third-grade king-level experts deal with him? The 4 of them had already gone all out. But they were retreating step by step. They were firmly suppressed by the second elder alone. However, the 4 of them didn't retreat. Blood had already seeped out of the mouths and noses of the 4 people in this short period of time. Dong Wuxiang gave the second elder the most pressure. However, his counterattack was also particularly fierce. His face was covered with blood at this moment. The web between his thumb and index finger had been shattered. He had no choice but to hold his saber with both hands and attack crazily. The second elder had suppressed the 4 people in a disadvantageous position. However, the 4 of them were sticking to his body like sticky candy. So he couldn't get away. He was even more impatient and furious than the 4 of them. That was because he still had time to look around and listen in all directions. He had seen with his own eyes that his third brother's vital energy shield had been broken by the enemy's attacks. Then his sword had been broken. Then his palm had been injured. Then he had been stabbed in the chest. Then his eyes had been pierced. Then he had spurted out blood from his entire body. The second elder's heart was bleeding. However, he couldn't rush over no matter what. He would have been able to pull the third elder out of that sword light in the blink of an eye if he had rushed over earlier. Then he would have saved him. He would have been seriously injured and crippled. But he would have been able to save his life. However, he was so anxious that his heart was bleeding. But he couldn't move even a step. Someone would have knocked him back with a weapon as long as he wanted to move. He would have knocked him back even if he had to sacrifice his own life. He could have reversed the situation of this battle. However, he was powerless to do so. This made the second elder extremely sullen. He was about to go crazy with rage. It had only been a moment, but the other side was already done. His third brother had turned into a pile of blood foam in the air. And the murderer who had killed his third brother with his own hands was rushing towards him on his sword. "Damn Sword King," the second elder yelled furiously. His eyes had turned red. "Come, come. All of you come." He roared crazily. Chu Yang came from the sky. His sword flashed in the air. It was a move of, what harm is there in slaughtering the entire world? This move came from 100 feet away. The moment it arrived was the moment when its power was at its greatest. "Du Xing." Chu Yang roared. His voice resounded through the clouds. Gudu Xing responded. He attacked crazily and immediately took a step back. Chu Yang had already passed through this gap with the momentum of a thunderbolt. He rushed towards the second elder who was busy dealing with Dong Wushang, Luo Kudi and Ji Mo's attacks. The second elder's beard flared. He shouted angrily, "Come!" He didn't dodge. Instead he used his energy shield to block the attacks of Dong Wushang and the other two. He also flew up on his sword and met Chu Yang in midair. With a loud boom, the two sword lights crazily collided in midair. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.